Yeah, I remember. I think he hurt his hamstring or something, and then like he just came back on and was still like limping around, but still faster.
He's still faster than
90% of the people on the field.
He could play footy. Well, he still can play footy.
Still can. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's a better halfback? You or Luke Harding?
We'll go Luke Harding 7v6.
Yeah, fair. What a
Let's just go
combination.
that is.
Yeah, right.
I think he played fullback when I played in that Reggie's comp. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because you don't like tackling.
Yeah. And I wanted me to
Who's a better tackler? You or Luke?
Not many tackles being made there, let me tell you. It's the old let them go past and we'll ankle tap them as they get through.
That's the thing. I'll chase him down. Yeah.
100%. And then you look like the hero because it's like, oh, he chased him out. What a chase, but he also missed the tackle.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Nah, tackling's overrated anyway. Scoring tries, eh?
Did
Did you play with him in when you busted your elbow? Because you were playing halfback then, yeah?
Yeah.
See, that's what
He
happens
was.
when you try to tackle
I
people.
can't remember if he was playing or not. I'm not too sure. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I can't give you a...
That was a long time ago. When was that? 2015?
2015, yeah. Yep, 2015. And then I moved to Sydney 2016.
That's only 10 years ago, mate.
I'm old now. As I said to you just before, I just still think I'm 21. And
Yeah.
once I hit 30, then I'll acknowledge it. But for now, I'm 21.
You won't acknowledge it
Turning
when you get
22.
there.
No, I won't.
You'll just be like, oh, shit, I'm 30.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. All right. How does it feel, mate, to be on the biggest podcast in Surrey Hills?
Massive.
Well, actually, it's probably not the biggest one. The fastest growing podcast in Surrey Hills. That's what
yeah,
we're
let's
gonna
say
call
that.
it.
No, it feels good.
Good.
As we just spoke about before, having conversations, it's something that I enjoy and I'm happy to do, and we don't often get to catch up and chat.
No,
so
I was
this would be nice to-
just thinking before when I went to the bathroom, when was the last time we saw each other?
a couple of years ago, I would say.
It would have been out when I come out to Penrith. Would have been
Yeah.
2021.
That was
Yeah,
2021. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I didn't have a child. I think we still lived in St Mary's because we trained at St Mary's Gym,
yeah,
Revolutions.
yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Do you still train there?
I trained at Emu Plains Revolutions.
Right. Okay.
So I kept going to St Mary's for a while, and then I realised that there was a gym that was much closer to my house. So after about 6 months of doing that,
country folk are not very smart.
no, we're not.
I would do the same thing as well when I moved down, just because you just think Sydney is so big compared to Narromine that once you understand a way to go for a place, don't go any other way and only go to that place.
100%. It's just the normal. As I said to you, when I first moved to Penrith, I thought Penrith was the city, and then I, had a real eye opener when I came into the city. I was like, oh shit! Like there's huge buildings, and then I remember when I started dating my wife, or now wife, she had to tell me what a T1 transit lane was. I had no idea.
What's that?
You know the T1 thing or T2, whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
how many passengers you can have in the car.
Really?
So you,
There you go.
I feel much better about that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, So like T2, it's like you have to have two. Oh, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
I think it's like T2 or something. You have to have like two passengers in the car.
For the train?
No,
Oh, for the...
in the car.
because I'm thinking of T1, T2 on the
Oh,
trains.
no, I'm thinking. of-
Maybe there's two drivers.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's two passengers. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, right. I didn't know. What's the reason behind that?
I don't know. I think it's so people carpool. Maybe
Yeah.
that sounds like the reasonable explanation, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, so
Like
it's
more
meant to
people
be
in the car. It's not like
Yeah, one person. I didn't know that was a thing.
Look it up, Google it. It might not be called T1. I might have just thrown you on a full tangent.
Probably. I'm not very good with... I only started driving in Sydney...
Do you have a car now here?
Yeah. Have you not seen my van? Do you know I've got... oh, yeah. We've got a...
No, I did know that.
Yeah. We've got a transporter. We've got a T5. So I wonder if that... is there a lane for the T5 or it's only T1 or T2?
Are you going to Google that? Because I really need to know.
We need to get someone behind the scenes. T1. Train line, see? Car. Lane.
I'm sure it's called like T2.
Two lads from the bush trying to figure out.
Yeah, why can't this be like the Rogan podcast where they just yell out?
Fuck's sake. Hopefully your mum's not listening. T2 lane camera. What is the... Lane will be indicated. T must have a driver and at least one occupant.
Yeah, see, I'm not stupid after all.
I've literally never seen that.
That makes me feel so much better because I still get teased about that. So
Really? Where is it?
everywhere.
They don't have it in the city, mate. In the city.
They
It must
definitely
be more out. You're pretty much in Dubbo now, anyway, at Penrith. So
Western Sydney.
yeah, there's a bit of unrest out there the other day. Was that near you on Monday?
With
Did you
the Kmart thing.
Kmart thing? What's up?
What?
The old mate got stabbed.
I don't think he got stabbed. I think there was someone with a knife on Monday. So
Yeah.
at Nepean Square, which is like right near where we live. But
Oh, another one.
what one are you thinking of?
The priest that got attacked.
That was in no, that was heaps far away. It was like Cabramatta
Oh,
area.
it's all the same. Once you go past Central Station, it's west, mate. There's not a whole lot of difference.
No, that was I think that was Cabramatta.
And there was another one in.
Yeah, Monday. I think there was a guy that got arrested with a knife.
What the fuck?
Yeah, crazy. World's gone mad.
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a. I wonder if it's a bit of a thing. I read a book called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion, and there's a few different concepts that he talks about. So social proof, likability, reciprocity, the scarcity, urgency, all these things that I pretty much used for sales for the most part, but it's manipulating human psychology to, reciprocity, for instance. If I give you something, you give me something back because you feel obliged to. So I bought you coffee before, you bought me a Powerade thing.
Yeah, it's the only reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. So social proof is one thing that is a big thing in influence. And they use one of the examples they use is if someone commits suicide and it's in the news, if it's a high profile person that's committed suicide, there more than likely will be many more suicides to follow within a quick succession, because then people see it as social proof of like, they did it. It's crazy, but it's how the human mind will work. They did it, someone else can do it. If someone else can do it, someone else can do it. It's the same thing potentially with like, there's a big publicized stabbing, someone else can do it because like,
Same with, like the mass shootings. Like
yeah,
in America,
you
like,
see it in
the
America.
ripple effect.
Yeah, because it's social proof. So like we use it with personal training, like before and after. This person got this result, whatever. That person, I'm similar to that person, therefore I can do it, and it's the same thing.
Same with you with podcasts that you were just saying before. If
Yeah.
other people can do it, why can't I?
Well,
So
that's the thing. It proves that it's possible, but in good scenarios, it's awesome. But then it can also go on the flip side of it as well too. I didn't know there was another one. So in Nepean at the
Nepean Square, it wasn't a stabbing, and there was reports that it was, but I'm pretty sure he just got arrested with a knife.
on Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And
Days
then there
of
was,
Wednesday. Yeah.
yeah, and then there was one, the Bishop.
Yeah.
It was like Fairfield or something like that. Weekly.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
around Cabramatta area.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Crazy.
The riots that started from that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get off those topics. What's going on, mate?
Very little. Just come in here and come in for the podcast, and then
Yeah.
did a little bit of training just before. Got to see the master at work squatting.
I know, mate. That's what I was thinking before. You're so lucky that you got to learn how to squat from such a
Just
young
going
age.
straight there, are we?
Yeah, we have to. Social proof, mate. I'm just trying to. Well, I guess so. For the listeners at home, the massive audience, Isaac was probably my first
I'll
client.
introduce myself now. You haven't introduced me.
No, it'll be on. No, we don't need to. I said Narayan's favourite son.
Oh, true. Of course.
Yeah. So you don't really need to look at the camera. I just kind of did, but because it's going to be on Spotify. But you were pretty much my first like programming client. Nearly, how many years ago was that now? 2014?
16th birthday, yeah.
Yeah.
16th birthday.
10
was
years
our
ago.
first session,
Yeah.
10 years ago.
And you just learn all the tricks of the trade then. And now, obviously, you still need to work on your squat depth a little bit, but
Debatable.
Yeah.
Blame it on the shoes that you said just before.
Yeah, true. The pillows. Tell the big audience at home who you are and what do you do?
Who I am and what do I do, that is a super interesting thing, and I was actually thinking of it on the way in today, just because I've had a lot of discussion with my wife recently about like my identity. So who I am and what I do, I've always been Isaac the footballer.
Yeah.
So just transitioning away from that, not that I played NRL or anything like that, but to my community.
You got pretty close.
Yeah, to my community and things like that, I have always just been the footballer. Who I am now, I'm Isaac, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I work in a community of Cranebrook. So I work within at a school called Braddock Public School. I'm community liaison officer there. What I do, I look after basically the families, connect the families to the school, provide any support that we can, reach out to external providers and get them into the school.
Nice. And how long have you been doing that for?
Started this year, so January this year.
Yeah.
So not long, but no, absolutely loving it.
So were you working for the NRL till then? Or?
I was. So for the last 2 years, so let's take it right back. When I moved down here, after I finished school in year 12, we were required to work a certain amount of hours per week. Penrith put me into a job at a school. I did SLSO work basically to fill in my days before training. Fell in love with the wellbeing side of things and wanting to help children. Obviously had a lot of guidance throughout my younger years from people like yourself, and even when I moved to Penrith, wellbeing officers and things like that. So really found a love for it when it was just like basically a time filler.
Yeah, fair.
And then I moved into the NRL job where I was looking after 70 odd schools in Parramatta. So doing different programs, morning, afternoon, during the day we'd run programs and we'd run gala days, look after the junior league clubs. And then I was kind of just, there was something missing. I wanted to get in touch with, I guess, my purpose, and I was really trying to work out what I wanted to do, like moving forward. I was missing that connection, building relationships with families and with students. And then, I was lucky enough to have this opportunity present, and I moved back in there. And it was, as I said to you just before, I love going to work every day. I love making an impact, not only just on, children now and guiding them in the right direction, but also assisting families in, the best way I can.
Yeah, for sure. And that's obviously a big thing, particularly, like you said, from an identity standpoint. You really give the football a good crack. And that was... When did you start playing footy? Like 5 or 6 years old?
I was 5. So I played soccer. I was forced to play soccer for a couple of years.
Yep.
Probably more so from mum, not dad. But I played soccer for a couple of years and then started playing footy. I think I was 6.
Yep.
Played, obviously, from then on in, played every other sport under the sun. Growing up in the country. That's what we do. We just play so many different sports.
I was talking about it. I can't remember. I don't know if it was the same when you were at school, but when we were in year 12, they put a rule on because most of the kids, just particularly the boys, just wanted to play sport, and you muck up in class, not like super bad, but just not paying attention, probably not doing your work, all that sort of stuff. And they put a rule on in year 12 that they wanted people to be more academic. So the rule was you could only play 2 sports at Narromine High. And and so obviously the school we went to, I think when I went to school there was 300 or 400 people in the school. And then by the time I left, we had 90 kids in our year, which was the biggest year that they ever had as year 7. And then when I left, we had like less than 30 and there was less than 200 people there.
Yeah.
It would have been.
I remember being, when I was there, I think it was like 130 kids or something.
Yeah. And so if you, they only allowed us to play 2 sports, and obviously rugby league and rugby union is in the middle of the year. So we played netball and hockey at the start of the year because that's when they were. And then the rugby league season came around, and the same team that plays netball and hockey and cricket and soccer plays rugby league because it's the rugby league team is the netball team, is the soccer team.
The tennis is
You
just do it all.
Do it all because that's what you do. You play sport. And that was when I ruined my shoulder. Was we had to write a letter. Sorry, we'll get back on you in a second, but it's my podcast. So we had to write. We had to write a letter to ask the principal to allow us to play rugby league, because it was like if they didn't let us play, there would have been, I wouldn't have been able to play, Ryan Wheeler wouldn't have been able to play, Hayden wouldn't have been able to play, who else was it? Like all the boys wouldn't have been able to play. So they let us play, and we were playing Gilgandra. Did you always have blow-ups with Gilgandra?
Yeah. Any school footy game, it's like a fight, no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know why. Anyway, so they wouldn't let us play, but then they were like, okay, we'll allow you to play, but it can't be in school time. So the game was at 4:00 in the afternoon, and that was when I busted my AC joint on my right shoulder, and it's never been the same since, like full snap. And yeah, so I can't remember. We were talking about how you just play sport at school. That's why you go to school.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So you obviously, played. I think we were on the footy topic. So
Yeah.
started, when I was 6 years old, and then played, all the way up. And still playing now, but probably took it more serious. So I just played for fun, but like without big noting, I was like quite good at it. I was,
You probably had one of the better attempts at the whole thing out of anybody from Narromine.
yeah. So like growing up, and it was always like I just enjoyed playing footy. I loved playing with my mates. Like I just love competing. I still do. No matter what I do, I just love to compete.
When did it was about when you were 15? Because you started. I remember you saying that you started like fall back a little bit, and like Nick would get better and Jack would get better, and then you were kind of like falling out of it.
So when I was 15, and that was one of the things I was thinking about as well over the last couple of days, thinking about this podcast. When I was 15, interesting fact about me that I don't even know if you know, but I was actually debating whether to play basketball or football.
Really?
So I was playing
because your mum and your dad used to play a lot. Yeah.
Well, my mum played like state basketball, and she was like really good. Obviously, I do not have the height to be a basketballer at all.
It's very ambitious.
It's so ambitious. It's but just the
if Blake Richardson said that, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Not when me, 4'2", no.
But mate, you do like a challenge.
Well,
you
that's
like a
the
bit
thing,
of adversity.
and it was like I loved when people told me I was like too small. It happened in footy as well. Like
I remember that.
Loved when people would tell me I was too small, or not big enough to make things, and it just like absolutely drove me mad to the point where I was like, no, I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah. I remember using that as when you would quit on like a Friday afternoon. I'd be like, mate, they're right. You will be too small. And then you crack on and get to another set.
Like, just like, how dare you bring that up?
Yeah.
But so when I was 15, I played up. I think we had it folded. We didn't have enough numbers or something. And I was playing 15, 16. So, but the 16s team that I played in was like really bad, and we'd get flogged every single game. So I went from a team, that would win most games, and then I got to that point of my life, and obviously I was playing up a year and with guys that were a lot bigger than me, and that was probably the starting point. I was like, oh shit, like is this what I want to do?
Because your 16s team was gone.
Yeah, so that was obviously the following year when I was 15 playing in the 16s. Like we were.
Did you win the grand final in the 14s?
We won the grand final in 11s, 13s, 16s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11s, 13s, 16s.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 16s team was just next level. But yeah, as a 15-year-old, it was like tossing up, is this what I want to do? I probably wasn't saying, are they right? Because I just knew they weren't. If I wasn't going to play footy, I was like, I'll make basketball and I'll move to America and I'll play. Like I just would have put 100% into it. I love the sport basketball. I still love it. Like I can go and shoot the basketball for hours now on end. But yeah, fast forwarding that, probably was told from my dad to wake up to myself and play footy. No, he would have backed me whatever I chose to do. But as a 16-year-old, I think that's when I started taking it seriously. As I said, my first session with you was on my 16th birthday. First personal training session with you. I remember walking in, and then I think you were like, we were just halfway through the session or something. And I said something about my birthday, and you were like, when is it? And I was like, today. And you were like, what the fuck are you doing here, mate?
Because I remember you had to go to dinner.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
At the RSL.
And the reason we actually started that, I don't know if you remember, but I was training with like other boys in the gym. I think I started when I was maybe 15, and I remember so vividly you saying to me, there's one exercise you're doing right in the gym, and that's it. And I was like, oh, what is it? And you were like, bench press, and you're doing that shit as well. But it's, you said there's one exercise you're doing like semi-normal, and you're like, the rest are just no good.
That's so
and
funny.
I love like when people are just brutally honest like that. Like, and there's countless moments I remember like from training with you where you're just so brutally honest, and it like sticks with me, and I'll just remember it. Like as we spoke about today, doing like legs on a field day session, like something you told me so long ago, and I would fuck it up like a few times, and then you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, and they would just be like, okay, like stick to that process. And now I, continue to do that. But then, so 16, we won the grand final, and I just fell in love with the sport. I was playing like representative football. I didn't know this at the time, but from when I was like 14, 15, I was being scouted from Penrith. They did like a lot of the talking with my dad, and then I had a manager at the time as well, and they were, talking about me moving to Sydney, and I had no idea. They just kind of kept it to themselves, which is probably a good thing. My head's big enough as it is, so. Yeah. But then, moving forward, I went into like 17s, and I kind of knew where I was going to go, and so played 18s as a 17-year-old, but then also played first grade.
Because you played a couple games from 16s up to 18s, yeah?
I was playing, so I'd play Saturday So when I was 16, I played Saturday with the 16 side, and then on Sunday I'd go play with 18s.
Yeah.
And that just really just toughened me up basically, and just got me ready for the whole thing. I loved, like, as I said, competing and, you know, the big collisions and things like that. But when I went up and played against essentially men, when I'm still just a, you know, skinny 16-year-old boy,
Find out
like,
really quickly.
Yeah, you find out very, very quickly. And I think that was kind of the stepping stone to where I got to. I played country, or New South Wales country, when I was 16, and that was, you know, one of the highlights of like my younger career. And then I moved when I was 18, so I played 18s, and then I also played first grade for Narromine Jets. And another eye opener, you're playing with men as a, you know, 16, 17-year-old, and it's like they don't care that you're 17 years old, especially out in the bush. There was multiple times where they're just like, you know, basically shaping up to me, and I've got old boys from Narromine running in like, don't fucking touch him. I'm like,
where's Mick Clark at?
Yeah, the Mick Clark was the first person to come to me. I remember, so I was, like, as I said, 17, and we were down against Westside by 8 points, and I made a break and scored a try, and a guy came over the top and like kneed me in the back, and I bunged it on, and I got an 8-point try awarded. And I remember I thought like the whole Westside side was going to kill me, and I was like, why did I do that? This could be the end of me. But no, coming that community feel, like they all just protected me. They all obviously played with my dad, knew my dad, and just protected me. So I knew that I was like, obviously,
you were sweet, yeah. And particularly playing someone like that as well too, and the way that you play the game as well, being faster and more agile than them, they are just going to take your head off, because they can't get your ankles because you're too fast. So you fight him in the head. Yeah. And then when did the injury happen?
So
that was that year?
Yeah, that was midway through. So I hadn't signed a deal with Penrith, but I was going to move down.
You hadn't you?
I hadn't put pen to paper.
Right.
I was going down there basically on a train and trial, I guess.
Yeah.
I must have been midway through the year that I did.
Still think you should have went to the Bulldogs, mate. That blue and white looked good on you.
Did. Maybe. Things could have been different, though.
Yeah, you could be going to your first premiership this year.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, neither do I.
But, yeah, halfway through the year, I dislocated my elbow just in a tackle. I played 18s that morning, and then, obviously playing first grade, and just had my elbow just got caught in a tackle, and popped. I just remember them screaming, "Don't look at it, don't look," because I just thought I broke my arm. I just heard a massive snap, and then I looked down, and my elbow's way up here, and I was like, "Oh, that's not good." And I just remember, I wasn't in too much pain. I was just so frustrated because I knew that I was working hard, and I thought I was working hard. I know what working hard is now. I thought at the time I was working really, really hard.
But you were as well. You were 16.
Yeah.
And how many times a week were you? Because I remember saying to you, because you said that when you were having trials, and you're like, I'm trialing, because you'd had a couple you had 1 or 2 at the Dogs, and then Sharks and Penrith.
Yeah.
And I said, mate, whatever you need, I will facilitate. Come down and fucking train as much as you can, because you are not going to be bigger than everybody down there. So we know that, but let's make sure that you are as strong as you absolutely can be, particularly you're playing men at the same time as well. And that actually probably become one of your strengths, is just having more strength than a lot of people that they didn't expect. Yeah. I remember watching you in the 18s grand final, and you come off the bench then.
Yeah, the semi-finals, I think I started coming off the bench.
Yeah.
The last 60 minutes.
Yeah, and there was guys that, the forwards were not running at you because they couldn't get over the top of you, because you joke about you not being able to tackle. That was one thing that you worked on a lot.
Yeah.
But when you hit people, you might not necessarily hurt them, but they weren't going over you.
No.
And that actually became one of your strengths,
Yeah.
is just not being able to be moved.
Basically, I just remember watching Cameron Smith, and it was just he would never, smash a guy, but it was he would make his tackles, and he would get them on the back and win that wrestle.
People will avoid him,
Yeah, 100%. It's you're not going to get a quick win. And I used to love, and I still love it when someone will call out, get at Isaac or get at the 6 or 7. I'm just oh yes, please,
sweet,
do that.
It's easier.
Yeah, and I think it's just that little challenge as well. It's you think you can, run over the top of me.
It's not happening.
No, you can't. So
yeah, and then so you hadn't signed with Penrith then?
No, I hadn't signed with Penrith. It actually just, I remembered as I was thinking about it just then, but I was actually going to move down to Cronulla. I basically was...
Oh, because you were going to go to the sports hide at
Endeavour.
Endeavour, yeah.
I had like a few trials with them and
Yeah.
like I, did, pretty well in the trials. And they were going to move me down and play obviously SG ball and go to Endeavour High School. John Morris was the development coach at the time. And so that was pretty much a done deal. And then the Penrith thing happened.
That was where Benji went, yeah? Was he at Endeavour? Did he play down there?
I'm not too sure.
There's
a lot of like NRL players went to that school. I don't know if he possibly, but yeah. So then I did my elbow, and
so yeah, dislocated elbow, which is not the easiest thing to dislocate.
Yeah, so dislocated my elbow. They went to Narromine Hospital, tried to put it back in, couldn't get it back in. And they're like, okay, you need to go to Dubbo. Went to transported to Dubbo. Like my mum and dad drove me. I'm sitting in the back, like dislocated elbow. I think that was the point I was getting at before as well. Was I remember coming off the field, screaming like I was yelling, fuck, and it was just the frustration that I did it. Like, it wasn't the fact, that it was hurt. Like, it was obviously hurting, but at the time it was just like, what? Like, no, like this. I've put in a lot of work to get to where I am, and will this change? The outcome where I end up and whatnot. So yeah, I went to Dubbo. They had to put me to sleep to get it back in. They told me there was no ligament damage, which turned out later down the track that they think there actually was ligament damage. There was never any scans done from the dislocation. So
there definitely would have been laxity to the ligaments, because that's one thing. Like I've subluxed my shoulder so much that the more you do it, the more like even after one time of doing it, it's more likely to happen again because the ligaments don't tighten up the same as a muscle will.
Yeah.
And so if there was a tear or not, there would have been stretching, for lack of a better description, which means that it's more likely to happen again, which we know what happened. But continue. So you went to Dubbo.
5 hours. They put me to sleep, got it back in. I remember waking up and like, you haven't done it. And then I looked down. I was like, okay, they have put it back in now. And then, as I said, they told me there was no ligament damage. So I was like, okay, right, I'm in a cast. And then the next day... Two days after, I was in with you, and we just said, I was so fixated on moving to like Penrith that I was like, okay, like what do we do from here? And you were just so vivid. Like
I was like, we can do this.
We can do legs. Like there's so many exercises, and I just wasn't aware of that, and I feel like a lot of people aren't. And hopefully this is a platform where you can teach people that there's other things that you can do to manage, and that doesn't just come down to injuries. That comes down to obviously illnesses and all sorts of things. So
yeah, that's the thing. Because the thing. How many times did you see it back in Narromine that there's so many people with so much talent? And it's probably the same with any country town. Like kids play a lot of sport out there, but it was just such a classic thing, and we've spoken about a lot of the people, and there's nothing wrong with it, but the people that sat there and they're like, they could have played in the NRL, which, or had the potential to, or had a crack at it. Like there's some fucking good football players.
Even people that like move down there and they're like this close, and like people are begging them basically just to stay, and then it's like they just go back to the comfort zone. And I think that's a lot of the time what it comes down to. They're just so comfortable in the country and the community, and like you go back there and like you're a big name. Like I have done it where I've gone back and played for Narromine, and it's like it is a really good
cool,
feeling. Yeah, it's so cool, and people are like, oh, he used to be at Penrith, like and it's really cool, and that I feel like that's a lot of the time people like to be the big fish in that small pond, where it's when you move, like, and when I moved to Penrith, I was like basically a tiny little goldfish.
No one. I remember you saying, because they sort of ranked you from 1 to 60, and they were like, oh, this kid's from the bush. Like, he can play footy, but he probably can't train. He probably might not.
Yeah.
So,
and it wasn't until like a bit later on that I found out when I did move, like, obviously they had high expectations and they wanted me to come down, but basically on that list from 1 to 60, when I first moved to Penrith, I was like right down the bottom. Like they had no expectations of me, I guess, progressing. It was more just I don't know, just see what happens. Like they get a few country kids down every year.
That's it, because, well, Penrith, there's a lot of country boys.
So many. And there's been so many as well that have just come down and then nothing's like happened. And I could have easily been, one of those kids that happened to. But it was just the work ethic that I was just like, okay, well, I'm here now. Like, let's just do absolutely everything. And even leading up to that, let's do absolutely everything to get to that next level.
Because that's what I remember saying, and that was kind of my point, is like, one of the big things that you see a lot of the kids come down from the bush is they play a lot of footy, but they don't train for it. So they do footy training, but they don't do like hard fitness training. They don't do hard strength training. And then you get down here and then they do hard strength training and hard fitness training. And I remember that's why I was so keen on it, because I remember when I was a kid, I used to train so much because like most kids growing up in the bush, you want to play, you know, in NRL, or you want to play you know, for Australian rugby or whatever it might be. But I never had anywhere near the talent to do so. But I love training, which is why I do what I do now. And I remember we put in so much work to that point. You know, you were training more than you trained more than anybody. And it was the reason why you could hold your own playing open men's at 17 years old, not as a big kid either. You would have been 75 kilos then?
If that, I think when I moved down, I remember being like 72. I remember like, it's just a picture in my head, like just remember looking at the scales like 71, 72 kilos.
But we did so much strength training that you were one of the strongest, whereas typically is the other way around. Yeah, you get kids that, you know, have a lot of talent, a lot of speed, but they're not strong. They can't tackle, you know, and mix it with the big boys down here, you got to be strong.
Yeah.
But then I remember it being like, okay, cool, we can't do upper body. Sweet. The game is played on your legs. Let's get those legs as big as humanly possible for what you can do. And even if it was just because I same sort of thing, then I had a lot of injuries as well. How I was saying, I busted my shoulder. So I was like, okay, well, I want to train. I can't do much upper body. I've still got all my lower body. I can do that. And then I trained lower body so much that I turned and much like you, I turned that upper body injury to then being, oh, cool, I have big legs now and everybody knows me for my legs.
Genetically gifted legs.
Yeah, genetically gifted legs. And then people say that, it's like, oh, you just naturally got big.
With them.
Yeah, I got naturally born with big calves.
With
but not
some tree trunk legs, I remember you as a toddler, you had that.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the squatting, you know. Daily for months on end and, you know, whatever it might be. But that was the thing. I was like, man, you've worked so hard up until this point. We got half your body out. But even then, it's just, you know, you could list the amount of exercises that you could do versus the amount of exercises that you couldn't do. And that list that you could do is always going to be more. We can find a lot of shit that you can do. And I've spoken about it on here a couple of times, which is one of the reasons why I want to get you on is, you know, there was, you know, you couldn't do push-ups, you couldn't do pull-ups, you couldn't do bench press, you couldn't do bicep curls, but we could push and pull the sled, we could do the back extension, we could do Nordic curls, we could do split squats, we could do every different variation of split squat. All that stuff, which ultimately ended up being one of your strengths, of you had a big lower body that made it hard for everybody to run over the top of you.
And reflecting on it as well, when I did all that like strength training, like leading up to it, because I still couldn't run because I was either in like a cast or whatever, the robo arm looking thing I had. I went down to Penrith. I hadn't ran in like 3 months. I did one session at just a reserve. It was just like a bit of a hill sprint and whatnot. And I still didn't feel like that fit because growing up, I didn't really have to do too much field work as such, like extras. I would do more kicking because I just played so many sports. I was just
always running around.
Always running around. So I was fit, like I never felt fatigued on the field. And I didn't run for basically 3 months, but I did all this like leg training where it was squats, whether it was sleds, as we just spoke about.
We pushed the sled all the time.
Friday afternoons still haunts me to this day. But no, it was great. Good time.
That was good fun.
And then, so my first session at Penrith, and I don't know if it was just the fact, and it's like interesting to think about, like, you know, mentally you can just go to a place that you think that you can't, or you like have these expectations on yourself that you can't do this, but you can. So I ran the fastest. They do a 1.2 test, which we've spoke about.
Yeah,
you know,
the Bronco,
Yeah, the Bronco. That was the fastest time that I've ever done still to this day.
And it was one of the fastest in the club.
Yeah, I think I was like tied first, or maybe second, like in the SG ball group. And that kind of probably, as they spoke about, that 1 to 60 pushed me straight up because they love, you know,
effort. Yeah,
effort and athletes that are fit basically because they can just work with the rest. Like everyone there has talent. It's just like, oh, like he can, you know, push himself to another.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? There's like in the NRL, there's like a handful of like the most talented players that you can imagine, like your Benjis, your Sean Johnsons, you know, Kalen Ponga. But how many players in the NRL? There's a couple hundred, you know, or more. They're not all that player. They just probably work fucking hard, harder than most people. There's some that probably don't work as hard, but particularly coming, you know, as the way that you play, you had a lot of talent, but you probably weren't the most talented in your team, but you outworked every single person there. Yeah. And then, it put you in a spot where you had a year off, and then they, after a year with your elbow, and then you went straight back into 5'8" or halfback. And
well, I ended up having, is that when I was down in Penrith?
Yeah.
So I had 2 years. So we won the SG Ball National Final, which was, must have been like April or May in 2016. I was meant to back up and play 20s the following week. So after winning the grand final, I was had a call on the Monday to go. I was like meant to go to 20s training, and I was going to play that weekend for whatever comp it was then. I think it was NYC or Holden Cup or whatever it was.
Also, that's like probably the best 20s team in the country at that time.
Yeah, by far. There's some big names in there.
Yeah.
I think they might.
So that would have been with Cleary and...
Yeah, I don't know if he might have been playing... Oh, no, he probably was in that side if he was playing New South Wales Cup, but it's all those boys, Jerome Luai, things like that. I think...
Big name NRL players that are playing Australia, that are playing, State of Origin.
Yeah, so even like Wade... and I think he might have actually been injured at the time, and that's why it was like, I'll just go straight up, like from SG Ball to 20s.
You don't get into that team by accident.
No, and that was very... I remember I must have travelled back to Narromine on the Monday, and I got a phone call, and it was like, we want him to play 20s, this week. And my elbow, I heard it during the national final, like, it then just like re-aggravated it, and like, no, we need to get it fixed. Like, we were looking at the longer picture. It was like, we need to get this fixed because you've had a really good, short season, but I also had like troubles throughout the season with it, and let's get it fixed. So I went and got scans, and it turned out I had snapped my ligament. They think that I snapped it like previously, which could have been that dislocation. There was like fractures in there and stuff. So
because there was one in December, yeah.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days before you come home.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So
I remember getting the message and just being like,
at training, it
was like just before Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think I came home the next day
and went to our Christmas party.
Yeah. Yes.
They were good Christmas parties.
They were really good Christmas parties. So I subluxed it the day before like training finished, and I thought like, that was it. But then ended up just rehabbing it itself, and I played it throughout the season, and then we're like, I've done it twice now. That's why we'll get it fixed. I won't, there's 2 more years after that, like year of playing 20s and whatnot. So it was like, okay, let's get it fixed. So then when I got scanned to see what was wrong with it, and turned out that, it snapped the UCL, and then, there was a couple of fractures. So the options were like surgery or...
First tackle of that game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
You come on 20 minutes in or...
Yeah, and then I heard it, but I just ended up staying on throughout the game. I remember at halftime just going up to the physio and being like, this isn't fucking good. Yeah. Like, and we're just like, let's just get through it. Like, I could still pass and stuff. It just was...
Because it was like a front rower landed on you or something.
Yeah.
So that's why you shouldn't tackle, man.
I know. That's why now I moved back out to the halves, and it's just in every contract I sign, I'm only making 10 tackles a game tops. But, so... Yeah, and then I had surgery, so I had a reconstruction. We just wanted to get it over and done with, and then complications out of that. I didn't realise, I just thought surgery was, and I think everyone kind of was in the same boat. It was like surgery, it will just be sore for a little bit, and then it'll just fix itself. But I just had like a lot of trouble with the range, and that's when I worked with you. I had troubles with it previously, but really after surgery, I'm just trying to grow that arm basically again. I had mates. Shout out to Nick Wright and Tom Shannon. That nicknamed me Nemo because basically I just lost that whole arm, and I was I had this like, I wouldn't say huge bicep, but I had a decent right arm, and then this like skinny left arm. We can put up a photo. There's one at Panthers training where it just is disgusting. But,
Nick Wright.
So
he's good for those one-liners.
He is. So 1 year of like trying to rehab it, and it didn't go too bad. Like it was. Obviously, range and whatnot, I was hopefully going to get back in 9 months. I'd pushed out to 12 months, and it was a week before I was going to play, and I was in the gym, and I went to do a shoulder press, and I just felt like a massive tear.
Yeah, I remember that. But also, like, for anybody listening, elbow dislocations don't happen. Like, it's not a thing that happens. A shoulder dislocation, ACL happens, like a rolled ankle, sprained ankle, breaking, whatever. Elbow dislocation, it is one of the most stable joints in the body. So, like, a big complication with it was there's not a lot of people that have operated on a dislocated elbow yet because it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen
You
too
know,
often.
ACL, you can, they're so good at doing ACL now because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But a dislocated elbow, like I've know 2 people that dislocate their elbow.
Yeah.
And the second one, I was like, fuck's sake, how did you dislocate your elbow? It's really hard to do.
Yeah, super hard to do.
And so it's like that's where a good bit of the complications come from, yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
just
the guy
doesn't
that
happen.
did the surgery, he was like a shoulder elbow expert in obviously his field. But the first one, I had a cadaver, so had just obviously somebody's ligament put into it, and then they just think that my body didn't adapt to it properly, in which that can happen. So then when I was doing that, obviously shoulder press and felt something go and was like, oh, I'll just get a scan before I play that week. And turns out I'd snapped that as well. They think the cadaver just never really...
So it was 2 years before you played 20s again?
Yeah, so then they got it from my tricep, and then when I had the tricep, obviously like put in there, I had the infection, nearly lost my arm. So it was, I remember like it just started after that surgery, it like started to get red, and it was like just a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's like not normal. I went to the doctors and they were like, oh no, just have some antibiotics, it'll be fine. And I remember waking up at 2:00 in the morning, and I was like, I just remember my whole arm like being on fire, and I went into like the bathroom, and like it was swollen all the way down into my wrist and like up into my armpit.
Yeah.
And that was the worst pain that I've ever been in. Like I've had obviously dislocations, many injuries, and that infection was topped it easily. So it went straight into hospital. They had to operate on it. They did 2 operations. I had a PIC line for like a month where I basically had a nurse come to our house each day. All the people I was living with, they came to the house and they had to change like the antibiotics each day. I'd walk around with a little bum bag, fit into Western Sydney quite well.
Your Nike TNs and your Nike hat there, mate.
100%. So
not much has changed.
I remember being at an airport and like I had obviously the bum bag and stuff, and like I was just walking across the road, and, like people were just like, one person like bibbed to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm not like, I'm not a like that, like I'm just a normal guy. But so then had nerve complications after that. Basically still don't have feeling in 2 of my fingers properly. I had 3 nerve like kind of semi-operation things. Basically just my nerve kept like subluxing as well.
How many surgeries all up? Was like 7.
7.
Yeah.
7.
Not great when you, like at that point, it's very easy to go, that's it, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And I think that was another thing, like as you spoke about, like competing. And there was times throughout that 2 years, I was like, oh, like, is this what I want to do? But then for the 95% of that, it was like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't care that I've had, 2 years off. I don't care what injuries. I'll just get back. I love playing footy, and that'll be fun.
Very hard at that point, because what are you, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, I would have been
20. Because you did 1 season in
18, yeah. And then, so 19s, I didn't play any time throughout when I was 19. And then must have been 20s. So I was, 22 months was the first round of...
Yeah, I remember.
First round of 20s. I played like the trial and stuff, and I was so fatigued. And
I remember I come watch that one.
Yeah.
In Penrith. Got the train all the way out there, mate.
Yeah. So I was like, I played a trial, and then I played all right, and then I was starting half in 20s, and I probably had one of the best games that I've ever played. Our first round against like Parramatta, which, I thought that I played really well, and then I had a few good games strung together, but I was just in like a lot of pain.
Because I remember you played that first game, and you could tell you hadn't played footy for a bit, but you're also playing in the best team in the country pretty much. So it's okay to look a little bit out of sorts.
Well, that was the trial, but then the first round, I think I probably played one of the best games of footy I have in a long time. Like I
watched a couple out there at Penrith, but I remember you getting better and better and better.
Yeah. And then it got to a point where I was dealing with like a lot of pain in my elbow, and then my form started to dip just because I hadn't played for so long. My body wasn't,
17th of February.
Is that the trial that I...
Yeah, that was... Yeah, after... Well, that was 5 surgeries then. So I got a post on my Instagram.
So I was 5. So then following that, like I ended up getting dropped from 20s in that year because my form, as I said, started to dip.
Was that your defense, or was it confidence? What do you reckon was happening there?
I still don't know exactly what it was. I I felt like I was playing all right, but they just went with another thing that happens in rugby league. They just went with another combination, which turned out to work well. That's just he's the guy that played over the top of me. He's playing first grade now.
Who was that?
Brendan Haynes.
Don't know.
He plays for Eels now. So they ended up going with like another option, which is perfectly fine at the time. I didn't really understand it, but I was like, okay, like
That's
what
footy.
can I do? Yeah, it's footy. I had my head down a little bit, like because that was like I faced adversity with injuries, but that was the first time I've really been like, dropped and been like, oh no, like you just go work on your game and.
Because they don't give you much reasoning, yeah?
No, they don't. And I don't like that. As I said to you before, like I like when people are just so brutally honest.
Just tell me, I'll work on it.
Yeah, tell me if I'm shit. Tell me if you don't think I'll ever, play for. And I remember a conversation actually, because I went and questioned it like a few times, like why am I not playing? Like I was one of the leaders in the team, and I remember my coach at the time said to me, he's like, maybe it is just that you will just go play, park footy, and that's perfectly fine, like playing A grade. And I remember in my head, like feeling like my head was just going to explode. Like how can you? And he probably purposely did it because he knew what kind of person I was. And he's like, maybe this club isn't the right place where you might go to another club and go through a back door and then, end up, playing first grade. And I ended up staying at Penrith for another year. They re-signed me to a New South Wales Cup deal and got to do a little bit of.
When you were in the when you started that season in 20s, did you then go on to play for St Mary's, or were you just not playing then?
Yeah, I went and played for St Mary's. So I played Ron Massey, I think, that year, and I think we might have lost the grand final out of that.
Because there was a few boys that got dropped from that team.
Yeah, it's people going in and out all the time. They ended up making it to the grand final, and I think they lost the grand final.
I remember that. I remember they lost that 20s grand final. Yeah,
against Sharks.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Because I remember saying they should have had you out there.
I wouldn't say that. No. It's a funny one though, because it's like I grew up absolutely like loving Panthers, and I got to a point where I was so competitive that I wanted to play first grade. It was like not that I'd hoped that first grade would lose, but I was okay with it because I was like, I just want to work my way up. If people are out of form, and that's the way footy works, if people are out of form at first grade, they grab from other places, whether it's another club, whether it's from their reserve grade, the 20s. And being just so competitive, like I was fine with that, and I just lost my love for probably the club. And it's probably not the best headspace to be in, but that's just how my brain worked in that sense, that I just wanted to go to the next level. And you're not going to go into a team that's winning every single game by 30 or 20 or whatever. Like you need sides to be losing for those changes to happen, or basically because
how you get better. Yeah,
there was one game for St Mary's, I scored 5 tries, and I remember people being like, "Surely you're back in the side now," and I didn't, and I was just like, what more do I need to, basically do? But
frustrating. One sec, mate. Just hold that thought. You were saying that you scored 5 tries for St Mary's, and then, which is a big accolade.
Yeah, I think that was.
I've never scored 5 tries for St Mary's before. I'm not that good of a footballer.
Probably scored 5 tries in the season.
Nah, I'd set them up, mate. Nah, I was just making meters, doing as a good second rower should.
You're a centre, mate.
Centre in rugby league.
And
played second row in second row in rugby league. Sorry, centre in rugby union, second row in rugby league.
Right.
Yeah.
Inside or outside centre?
Inside, more of a crash ball, and then I ended up playing 5'8" in my last year.
Is inside centre basically like second row, and then outside centre?
Yeah. It goes a little bit. So sometimes this inside centre can play as a 5'8", and the 5'8" play as a halfback. If you're think about that, like in league.
Yep.
So your 5'8" will ball play a little bit, but also run, whereas your halfback will probably ball play more than run. So you can kind of have that, or you can then end up having a inside that is a crash ball. So just run lines. And then your outside would typically be faster and less ball play. So I played inside, Ryan Wheeler played outside because he was faster than I was, and he was better.
Not hard though.
No, I actually had a little bit of speed, but I was good at running a hole. James and Luke come down and taught us to run a line at like 14s, I think, and so we just learned to run at holes, which at young age doesn't usually happen. I remember teaching Cane Man how to do it as well too, and then he'd just fucking pin it for a hole and just
He was a gun.
gone.
He was an absolute gun.
I know. The year probably the 14s. 13s or 14s, he was probably your standout player in that.
100%. He was bigger than everyone as well.
And
and so fast. But then he just didn't grow.
Just stop, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then did he start in second rows or centre? He ended up playing centre.
Centre.
Yeah, he was a fucking good footballer. He's probably the best out of the Welshers of footy.
Yeah. Or your brother.
He was actually quite good at footy, James. Yeah. He probably, because him and Luke got scouted by Manly in the rugby. Yeah, they brought them down because they were playing 18s and Colts, I think. No, they weren't playing. They played Colts after 18s. So they started playing rugby and then they scouted them to come down. But then James was going to Sydney Uni. But he probably actually could have had a crack at it because he played with a few of the Wallabies and at first grade in Colts, which would have been close to what your 20s was.
Yeah, correct.
But then he just kept playing cricket as well and never would do a pre-season.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Play cricket instead, stay in the 40-degree heat.
Yeah.
That was one thing I didn't. I played cricket, finished under 16s when I played the men's and we won a grand final. And I was.
Who did you play for? Backwater or Butter?
No, the blue team.
Blue team. Backwater.
No. I played with like Sambo and stuff.
Oh, but they started their own team, didn't they?
Yeah, it was blue. I don't remember what it was called, but I remember...
With Bocky and Jordan.
Yeah, I remember it was grand final and I had to just, like, I wasn't a batter, I was a spin bowler, fielder, whatever, but I was not even a cricketer. I don't even know why the fuck
you're a rugby league, you're a 5'8", that's what you were in cricket.
Yeah, basically. Just there for a good time, but I remember going in and it was grand final and they're like, you just need to, like, block out every ball, like just block and block and block and just stay in. I can't remember who was in with me, but they just had to get runs. And I remember I had like generally throughout the season they didn't bowl too fast for me because I was younger, but
in the grand final
I was like,
yeah.
I just remember just blocking every ball, and then we ended up winning, and I was like a hero for getting like maybe 1 or 2 runs, just staying in.
How good is the grand final in Narromine?
Oh, the best.
Mate, that's probably the biggest grand final you won was under 16s, yeah?
Yeah, under 16s would have been. Yep, up there. Let's say that. No, my reserve grade in Narromine won a couple of years ago.
True.
That was
a bit of a reuniting of the iconic pairing.
It was
Thompson and Wright.
Yep.
Right.
Right. That was good though. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. So where we're at, you scored 5 tries for St Mary's.
Yep.
And then still didn't get a start.
Still didn't get a start.
In the 20s.
Yeah, and then that year basically just fizzled out. We ended up, obviously, as I said, losing grand final. To my surprise, like I was looking at other clubs and going to Tigers. I think we're in conversation. There was a couple others that we were trying to get into, and then Penrith reached out and they wanted to sign me to a New South Wales Cup deal, which was bizarre because there wasn't a great bunch of people getting signed, and I hadn't played basically the whole year of 20s.
So weird how that all went down.
Yeah, it was bizarre and like.
Because they weren't going to let you go there for a bit, hey? They were going to keep you.
Yeah. It was. Oh, I tried to leave, I think, throughout the year in 20s, and there was this like pushback. Like,
yeah, that's right. Because you're playing St Mary's, but you're still signed to Penrith.
Yeah, I was still signed to Penrith, but I tried to get out like an early release, and I don't know if it was like a definite no. It was like no, just stay. Like bide your time, and whether I was just influenced by like family and manager and whatnot to stay.
But like, because it's one of the better clubs, particularly to come through the juniors.
Yeah, by far.
Now look at them, they won 3 grand finals in a row.
Yeah, you look at any NRL team and they will have someone that's probably, I shouldn't say every NRL team, but most NRL teams you can pick out 3 to 4 Penrith juniors, people that have played in the Penrith system. Yeah. They do things better than any other club, and I can say
the Bulldogs are Penrith now.
Yeah, basically. It's just a Penrith reserve grade side. So
it
is. No, it's... but yeah, they do breed like really quality players, and it's just the program, the amount of money they put into their juniors. Like they just are a very, start at the bottom and build our club up, and it's paid off dividends.
Because they've got some connections now. There's something out here with St John's, isn't there?
Yeah, they do like I don't know if it's. I know they do stuff with St John's, but they have like a Western academy where they send out coaches and they do training like Western reams like pathways
Yeah.
and things like that, which is incredible for country footy. And as you said before, there's so much talent out in the country, and it's stupid for them not to basically tap in. And there should be, I guess they're at the foot of the mountains. They're so close to it.
Yeah.
I remember choosing between Cronulla and Penrith, and it was like, well, Penrith's that little bit closer as well. And
easy to get home. You're 4 and a bit hours home as opposed to 6 or...
Yeah. And like we had, people that knew, other footy players that have gone down and played for, Penrith. So I had those like connections, kind of people around the club.
And pretty cool. You supported Penrith your whole life. And then
that was the other thing. Supported Panthers because of Reece Wesser on the PlayStation 2 game where you just like run like diagonal out to the side up and score a try like every 10 seconds.
It's hard to find adequate superlatives to describe his performance. How good's Bossy?
Oh, the best.
I saw Reece Wesser at the Marrickville Metro about a month ago. I was like, fuck, that's it, Reece Wesser. Yeah.
Crazy, hey?
And that's
you just
why.
don't think they ever get old. Like, I just picture like, the greats of rugby league and kind of any sport, you just don't think that they'll ever get old, and then they do, and you're like,
shit.
Why are you getting old? Like, you should still be running around. But
How good was rugby league on the PlayStation?
the best. That was like, I wasn't much of a game. I ended up being, I loved gaming for a while there, but like in my like early years, the only thing I would play was like rugby league because it was just, I wanted to play rugby league.
So great.
Outside, so I'm just going to play it.
Inside, yeah. The commentating on that is
So funny. It's the best.
that line just stands out in my head because I never knew what he meant by adequate superlatives, but it was just like, it sounds like something.
Sounds
so
fancy.
Yeah, I still don't know what he means by it, but I remember it.
I'll Google it probably after this podcast.
And then so signed back at Penrith, and then what happened from there?
Played a bit of reserve grade in whatever year that was. Played like, I started the first game, 5'8", and then played a few games off the bench, and then back to St Mary's, kind of in and out. Like, you don't really know in those like comps whether you're going to play up until basically the day before. So I'd train with them throughout the week. They'd give me days where I'd train with like first grade. We'd do opposed sessions against them, and then like get to the Friday and it's, you're not playing now, or you are playing. And then, so that season happened, and then I went to Newtown the following year, and that's when COVID happened, and then... so I was at Newtown, and then...
I remember that, because I watched it at...
Yeah, James you went...
We went to a couple at...
Dog park thing.
Yeah, no, so I went there by myself, and who was fucking playing... Used to play back row for the Bulldogs.
Greg Eastwood.
Yeah. I was like,
He's
what?
still getting around playing, I'm pretty sure. I saw his name somewhere the other day.
I was like, how the fuck is Isaac playing against Greg Eastwood right now? Like, he was one of my favourite players for the Bulldogs.
It's so, It's so
and then he was getting absolutely smacked around in that comp as well too.
Just collecting the paycheck.
Yeah, fair. I saw him walking down the street one day in just some tradie kit. Like, it would have been when I first moved down here. I was like, fuck, it's Greg Eastwood. Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah. And then he was playing for Glebe.
Yeah, was playing for Glebe.
At the dog park. And then we went and watched you at Henson Park a couple of times.
Yeah, correct. And then, obviously, as I said, COVID happened, and then I went and played out bush for a couple of years, and then came back to play in this country.
That comp was weird, hey?
Where I played for Sims, that one.
Yeah, and because...
President's Cup, there's teams from all over the state.
North Sydney Bears were playing in it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there was a Newcastle team, was
There
there?
was a Newcastle. Then there was a Western Rams side, which is weird because Sims were in it, and that's like a side. Very, very bizarre.
It was the only comp going bar the NRL at that time.
Yeah,
How
correct.
did they get that going?
I don't know. I do not know, but...
I remember watching a couple of those games because they were televised somehow because it was one of the only...
It might have been live streamed.
Yeah, not on the TV, but I remember watching a few on Facebook actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New South Wales Rugby League TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened, and then came back to Sydney. I played a year in played a year in Narromine, and then played a year in Lithgow. Was just kind of at the point where I was like, I've given it a decent crack. So just played some country footy and just wanted to find the love for it again. And then my now wife was pregnant, so I was like, oh, well, I don't want to be travelling out at every weekend. So I went back to St. Mary's and I ran into the recruitment officer that got me to Penrith, and he was like, where are you playing at? And I was like, oh, St. Mary's. And we just got talking, and he said, well, come do a Panthers Cup season. And I'd just been playing country footy for a couple of years, and then, so that was last year, I went and did a Penrith New South Wales Cup pre-season, and then went back to St. Mary's and played there throughout last year. And then
So they were going to put you back into the Cup side last year, or you had the
so
potential?
I did the whole pre-season with New South Wales Cup
Yeah.
last year, and did like a trial or two with them.
For Penrith?
Yeah, last year. Started last year.
I can't remember. That's a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, it is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then, so my wife gave birth in April last year and played throughout the season just at St. Mary's. And as I spoke to you about before, just footy became, less of an importance to me. I sacrificed a lot for it over the years and just put my family first, and now just playing park footy.
Yeah. Still getting paid to have fun? How good.
Yeah, it is.
That is the cool thing about rugby league, and that
Yeah.
it's that you can still get paid, and obviously you're playing the footy that you're probably more likely to get paid more than your average person because you've played at a higher level and you can contribute more to the club. But it's one thing that they should do more in rugby union because they don't pay.
Hey.
They do kinda some. Like one of the boys one of the boys that works here, I had him on the podcast, Ray. Did you listen to the one with he was in the army?
What episode?
I think it was like 4.
Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, he come over and he played for the army, the British Army.
Wow.
Yeah, which was fucking cool. Then he was in the Welsh squad for the Sevens, the professional rugby player. But then he was in the army and then come over here. But he played for the same teams that James was playing for down here when James was just playing park footy, like the A grade, and they were paying him, but they don't pay.
Yeah.
If you're a name, they'll pay you, but they don't pay a lot of their players, particularly in juniors. It's such a weird thing because now everybody ends up in the NRL.
Yeah.
And the state of Australian Rugby Union is just in shambles.
Declining.
Yeah.
Massively. I've never really got into union.
You tried for one of the Queensland teams, didn't you? Queensland schools, didn't you? I remember.
No, I did a trial, and then I think I did like a school trial and made like one of the Western sides, and then one of the teachers at Narromine High School was like, we can get you a scholarship to Queensland.
Yes, yeah.
To play rugby union, but I obviously was like, no, I'm a league person. That was, I think, my first or second game playing union.
Yeah.
So I just obviously didn't take that.
Yeah. But you don't get paid unless you play for the Waratahs.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of like sacrifice and time. It's essentially, well, it's not basically, it is another job.
Yeah.
Like, people have to work to make a living, and then you spend your whole afternoon into the night like training. It should be, considered another job, and you should be getting paid decent amount of money. Amount of money.
That's it. You can, particularly playing at the levels that they want people to get to make the sport what it is. You probably still have to work a bit, but you're putting your body on the line every week, and you have the potential to get injured every single second of that game. And if you're not getting paid for it, so I can see why there's a lot of juniors go and play, like SG ball and whatnot when they play for their school, like places like Newington, they end up playing, in the NRL because they're getting paid.
And it's just that, I guess, as an 18-year-old, if someone, offers you a little bit of cash, you're like, oh, well, I'm not getting paid that from union. Like, I'm going to go to this club. And then if you're a sought-out, like, talent, people will be, I'll pay you a little bit more. And then you just, oh, well, I'm going to be playing rugby league. And that's, once you're in that system, you're going to stay there. You're not going to throw massive amount of cash at you if you're not playing their sport. So.
No, unless you're the top of the top.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years with the next World Cup, because there was talk of, is it Joseph Suwale?
I think he's a done deal to go.
Yeah, because it was like $2 million or something like that, wasn't it?
It's something crazy.
Ridiculous. And do you reckon people, like, because Cam Murray,
Murray was talking about doing it.
Because you played New South Wales with him, yeah?
Yeah, I played over in Papua New Guinea with him.
Yeah.
As a 16-year-old, and I remember being like, oh, this guy will play NRL. He was just at a completely different level. I was still living in the country, and obviously he was captain of South's Harold Mutts at the time.
And training in the gym at Newington.
Yeah, and I just remember, and like his professionalism was just next level as a 16-year-old. I was like, you are such a leader.
Yeah.
And it was just so eye-opening to see and like spend. I think we spent, I don't know how many days, maybe 10 days there in Papua New Guinea, and just how he held himself for that 10 days. I was like, you are going to, as a 16-year-old, I could see another 16-year-old going, you are going to go places. And sure enough, he's playing Origin for Australia, a captain of his club.
Yeah. Because, that is obviously the benefit. If you've got that talent and you're in an environment like they get put in at Newington, then, and we've trained there a few times. We didn't have that gym at Narromine High.
No. We had an ag plot and it was like chase around the cows. And
riding motorbikes and driving tractors, which is cool.
Yeah, so cool.
Really cool. That's one of the things like I wouldn't, there's so many things that it's growing up out in the bush that you probably miss opportunities with things like that, but also with like in terms of the good training and the schools and all that stuff. But man, growing up like riding a motorbike at school, so sick.
You don't hear about that. And that was what I spoke to you about when we were training before. I said that like I want my son Harry to grow up like in the country, just because I had such a good experience like growing up. Like I absolutely loved it. And working closely with like children now growing up in the city, I can kind of like see it, and I just would love for him to have the same childhood as I guess like we did, and like, all of my friends, and just the freedom. And it might be different out there now, but it's still so different to like being in the city. Like I see family friends out there, and friends that have children, and just the way they're brought up is just completely different to what it's like in the city.
Well, just that thing of like, you think it's funny because every generation thinks that it's a bit different for the generations to come, but like I remember, like you were saying before, when you play the PlayStation, you'd be playing footy because you want to play rugby league on the PlayStation because you're not doing it outside. But the minute you can do it outside, you'll be doing it outside more than you'll be doing it on the PlayStation. Yeah. It's like for me, it was riding bikes. If I'm not riding bikes outside, I'm going to be on the PlayStation riding bikes, because then as soon as I get outside, I can then go ride bikes. Like I bought a PlayStation recently because I hadn't had one for ages, and motocross and bikes is that like it's my thing. I've rode bikes since I was like, I had a motorbike when I was 5 or 6, and Lucas Kane's brother and I, we just always on bikes. If that's what we do, we would always be riding bikes, and if we're not riding push bikes, then on the weekends we're riding motorbikes, and then we'd be back on the bikes again as soon as we can. And so now I watch the only sport I watch really is Supercross on the weekend, so motocross racing, like dirt bike racing. And I watch it. There's 32 rounds a year, but there's obviously 52 weeks in a year. So there's 20 weeks that it's not on. So I bought a PlayStation. So
those 20 weeks.
Yes, because it's very important. If I'm not out on my bike and I'm not watching it, I want to be able to play it.
It's good logic. I can't argue with that.
Well, that's the thing. And I spent like $500 to buy a PlayStation, and I bought 1 or 2 games that are motocross because that's what I want to do. Which I think those things, as growing up out in the bush, you get access to be able to do that. Like if it's not, the amount of time you spend just kicking the footy around with the boys.
Yeah.
On a whatever afternoon, because it doesn't matter. You can just wander around and kick the footy.
Yep. And like even going for walks, like to the shop and stuff, I remember I would just take a footy. No matter where I went, I was taking a footy, and I was doing chip chases on the road. And because there's there's a couple of cars, and if there is, like, it doesn't really matter.
Step them and make them look silly.
Yeah, 100%. Even like cars parked on the side of the road, like I would chip over the cars, like power poles. I would, go 20 meters out while we're walking about. I'm going to hit that power pole, and just like set little challenges.
I remember at school, like, you just always had a footy in between classes, hey? Yeah. Like you'd never not had a footy in. One of the things that I always wanted to be, like everybody starting out, when you pass, you can only usually pass one way. And obviously some people can do it a little bit better. It actually comes back to the things about, I just have to practice things a lot. And then I know when I practice something a lot, I get better at it. So for this, for instance, is the same thing. And then training is the same thing. And then I've done it with my business, with elements that haven't come easy to me, so like my consult and stuff like that. But back to the example of the footy, I remember I couldn't pass left to right, which is quite common, yeah. And so anytime we had a footy at school, I would only pass left to right. Like I wouldn't pass it right to left because then I would just continue to get better at the thing that I could already do. So every single time, and it was funny because I remember Ryan Wheeler couldn't pass left to right.
Did you do the one where you hold the ball like that,
Justin Clark used to do that.
Like you spin it the
and
other
it would
way?
spin away from you and it's fucking trippy. Yeah, no. He would do that or just do like, what do you... Yeah,
6 o'clock.
yeah, 6 o'clock pass, yeah. Not like a spiral pass. And so it used to piss him off because I would then practice it all the time and I got better at it. And then he wouldn't practice it and he didn't get better at it.
Yeah.
So
I remember my dad made me, because I wanted to pass that way, and then he'd just be like, well, just, as you said, like, go practice it.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to that once. And it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to practice this as much
Always
as I
do
can.
it,
And I
yeah.
would just go at the back and, like, same thing, and just flick and flick and flick. And then, like, eventually that becomes as good as the other side. And it's just...
I can probably pass, not that I pass a lot, but anytime I grab a footy, it's like I do the same thing. I'll only pass left.
Yeah.
The first 1 or 2 times I do it because I know that I can do it right. So I can probably pass better left now than I can do right.
Interesting. Yeah. I was the same. I could pass better that way. And then after I did my elbow, I had to, like, relearn to pass. And now that's, like, still not as good as the other way, but just because, like, I can't, like, fully extend my elbow and stuff. But yeah, the same thing for a while there. I was better passing that way just because I practiced it so much.
Yeah.
And also, like, speaking on that, I remember deciding one day that I wanted to be left-footed.
Yeah.
When I was like,
It's a better way to be. I'm left-footed.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are too.
Yeah.
I wanted to be left-footed, so I just went out in the back and I would just always practice with my left foot. And I don't know if I saw a player on TV who was left-footed and I'd be like, I want to be like that. So I remember just going out the back and I would, like, kick goals, like, trying to hit the basketball hoop left foot. And, like,
Just practice, man.
yeah, and then I remember, like, I became good at it, and but I went back to right because...
You're going to have a dominant side, but I'm
dominant
sure
side.
at some point you would have had to kick with your left, and you could.
Yeah, and I, like, still do it now, like, and I'm confident to do it, like, as grubbers, like, to kick with my left foot, like, I do it in games now. So.
Practice. There was a quote, with competence comes confidence.
Competence comes confidence.
So the more competent you get at something, the more confident you get at something.
So true.
This only
Just
comes
like-
from practice, yeah.
Yeah, what we were talking about before, podcasting and conversations.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, man, that's been a big thing for me is like I was saying off air, and I've probably said it on here at some point, but for me, I have to be had to be really conscious with the talking element of my job. Obviously, there's a lot of talking in my job, but I can explain exercises because I'm really, really passionate about that, and that comes easy, and that will always come easy. But the other side of it, of talking to people, talking to new people, being clear with what you say and how you say things, and then questioning how you question, is such it's such a conscious thing for me to have had get better at. And yeah, it's easy to look at people that are good at something and just be like, oh, they're just good at it. Like, and some people just are good at it. But
for other people, it takes that.
It's not,
time
but
of practice.
also there's going to be a point where they're not good at it as well, because everybody starts to slip to a certain extent. Like you were saying, I remember how you said it was kind of when you were about 15 and it was either basketball or footy, and then you started to notice that footy started to slip in a little bit, and then you put more effort into it, and what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
You got better at it just by more practice. But if it starts to slip, this is a really, really good thing for me, because I can't really slip with it because I'm doing it so frequently. So it makes then that part of my job, the talking part of my job, a lot easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, practice. This will be a good. I actually haven't asked any of the questions on here, so I'm going to ask you the question.
Let's start the podcast.
Yeah. And anyway, that was the intro. What are some of your proudest moments, mate?
Proudest moments? I jokingly said this, like, because obviously it was brief with some of the questions that we are getting to now. And I said to Elise, I was like, oh, probably like that footy moment and then this footy moment. And I could just see, her looking at me, and I was like, I'm joking. So obviously it's birth of my son, Harry, who just turned 1 recently.
There has to be a chip chase in there at some point, surely.
We're getting to that.
5
Saving
tries.
the best for last.
Yeah, 5 tries for St. Mary's. He's not going to listen to this for a long time, mate.
Exactly.
And probably by that time he'll be playing footy as well too, and be like...
For a while, I didn't want him to play footy. I thought, no, I think I want him to like my wife's side, they're quite like tall, and I'm like, I think I want him to play basketball. But now I'm just like, he's just so rough. He's just such a like little boy. I'm like, you're playing footy 100%.
Yeah,
Like, loves wrestling. Proudest moments, birth of my son Harry, marrying my now wife last December, and the other one for me would have been my debut for New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
So that, you know, like, I guess in the sporting element, obviously there's like a lot of great moments, but just that one was like, I was like, oh no. And I think because I faced so much adversity, I'm like at to a point, I was like, oh, this is still like a reality. It was not, you know, it wasn't all taken away. I was like, oh, I can still, you know, make something of this. So that would have been my proudest moment, sporting wise.
Yeah. That's a big thing as well too, to play. Yeah, it's not first grade, but also they're all first grade players in that comp. Yeah,
yeah.
They're
and
not
you're training like, with first grade and things like that. So yeah, that would be my proudest moments.
Yeah, because that was that game that we were talking about before. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was against Magpies.
I don't think I watched you that season. I don't think I got to watch you that season because I was going to watch you at Leichhardt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched you the following season for Newtown because the games were really close.
Yeah.
I watched you Wentworth Park and Henson a couple of times, and I don't know if there was anywhere else. But I watched you at Penrith, but I didn't watch you that game. I can't remember why, but I was going to watch you at Leichhardt, and that was the game that I think from memory Penrith played Brisbane, and Luai didn't start, and then he come back and start. And the weird thing is they just put you straight out of that team, yeah, and not onto the bench.
No, straight, yeah, because I was playing 5A. It was kind of, I like get it, like, there's a few games I did play on the bench, but like, really, I came back after my injuries. I came back as a half, not as a hooker. So to hold, like, I still could have played 9, but yeah, to hold me on the bench was probably not the smartest. Like, I had other 9 options.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, cool.
So they're my proudest moments.
Top proudest moments. Nice. What else we got, mate? Have you got any questions for me?
Have I got any questions for you? What are your proudest moments? No, actually, you know what I'm going to ask? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? I do what I do because I like to help people that were in a position that I like to help people in positions that I was once in. So a big thing for helping you, it was I wanted to do that. I wanted to play footy at the highest level, and then because I had a lot of shoulder injuries and then a lot of concussions as well too. I think I had like properly bell rung out cold, maybe 3 or 4, and then others that shouldn't have continued to play. That was not good, and I think there's probably going to be some lasting damage from that to a certain extent. And then shoulder injuries, and then I started late, but I think I had okay skill, but I just try and make up for it with work ethics. That's why I trained so much. And then you had you had way more skill than I ever had. Obviously, you went so much further with it, but you were really keen to push it. And I was like, oh, cool. That's, if I can help you get through to where you wanted to go, then that's why I'll help you, and you were excited about it. So that's a big thing. And then that carries over to, for a long time, I wanted to do that with just training kids or younger people to be able to realize the potential with sport, particularly rugby league, because that's what me and my mate Glenn were doing. Is we wanted to set up like an online platform that we could do that and help people, around Australia reach their potential, because I saw for you what difference that made. Like if you think back, what would that difference? Where do you think you would have got to if you didn't strength train?
No idea.
You would have been too small. You would have been
100%. If I didn't learn, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's important for you to know.
Yeah.
And like we don't often speak about it, but if I didn't have that interaction with you when I did had that injury, I just mentally you changed my whole perception on the injury of where to go. And the reason I'm interrupting is because it's important for you to know what impact you had on my life, and it wasn't. It wasn't just for that year, or it wasn't for 2 years. It's even to a point now, where I still, Like there was a question on there that you said, like, how do you stay motivated? It's just, for me, and it's something that you taught me, it's like, you just get it fucking done.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Don't make excuses. You already sent me a text this morning about like not making excuses, and it's just for what you can create for other people. And when you speak about your why, you've like done that for me, and I can only imagine how many other people there are. But it's just like, you just get the fucking job done. It's like, no matter what, you just do it, and you find a way to be able to accommodate, or you just, you go to another path. And yeah, I think it's important for you to know that. And
yeah,
they
man,
often, like,
and
tell you those.
that's why I did it, because like I think back, if the talent probably wasn't there, but if I had a lot of injuries with my shoulders that just stopped me from being able to do stuff. If I knew what I know now, going back then, that wouldn't have been an issue, and it could have been an absolute strength. I made it a strength because then I trained lower body more, but it could have been, my upper body could have been the strength, and that could have been, like I had an opportunity with, albeit very small compared to what you had with, or what you did with your footy, but I had a selection carnival for the New South Wales country team, and it was the first time I got to play rep footy, and we were playing I started playing under 20s when I was 17, because I didn't want to, I was sick of rugby league with just all the boys in my team just wanted to fight. That's why they played. Whereas you had more talent across the board in your team, yeah? So you boys would play, there'd be a scrap every now and then, but you would play footy, and then the whole thing feeds itself. Whereas I was super keen and we had a lot of talent, but then also everybody just wanted to fight and, get into scraps, which is sweet, whatever. So I went to play rugby union. And then I really enjoyed that as well, much like you were talking, when you're, oh, cool, I'm the youngest in this team. I don't give a fuck, I'm going to give it a crack. And I remember like the first couple of games that I played, I set up some tries, I scored a try, I made breaks that they're like, how is this kid, he's playing under 20s, but he's making these under 20-year-olds look stupid playing the position that I was playing. And then we played, so 17 playing 20s, the year after playing 20s still, because I was then only 18. And then Ryan and I got selected in what was it? What did they call it? Central West team. So we went to, and that was the first time I'd played in a really good team. So like across the field, everybody's there because they want to play footy, not they're there because they want to have a scrap, or they're kind of there because, they kind of should play footy. It was an actual representative team. And we went to Lismore, I think, and the highest level of footy that I'd played up until that point, apart from playing 20s, which was not too bad, but again, you get those people that are just there because it's a social thing, whatever it might be. And I did really, really well, but I'd also, again, the shoulder injuries up until that point, it limited my tackling on my right shoulder. If anybody ran at my left side, I wouldn't care. I'll stand and deliver whatever, it's fine. But on my right side, I dislocated it so many times, or subluxed it so many times, and it was probably similar to you with your elbow. You're just not going to throw it out there when you're not confident in it. And Ryan got into that team, which was sick, and he got to go to, they toured Canada, and then he got a contract from that to play in New Zealand from there. And he went to New Zealand for a bit to play rugby, which if you're playing rugby, that's the place to play rugby. I don't know if do you remember Andy Thorburn?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was our coach of under 20s at the time. And he knew the New South Wales country coach and selectors. And they said that they would have picked the 12 and 13, which is Ryan and I from Central West, if the 12 could tackle. But I couldn't tackle at the time because my shoulder was fucked, and I didn't know how to. I trained, but I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. And I know that if I was in that position, which is why when you fucked your elbow up, I was like, cool, this is not going to be a thing for you. This is it's because I knew that if that wasn't a thing for you, where could you get to, And obviously injuries still along the way and setbacks along the way. But that's why I had that mentality of, okay, well, sweet, we can't work on this. We could be down about that and we can not work, or we can work on all the things that we can work on and actually get better. And then when we can work on the thing that is bad at the moment, we'll make that even better as well. But at least we make a strength from there. And I just think, well, nothing probably would have eventuated from that. But I knew that if I that I treated that as the most serious game of football that weekend as I ever had, because it was. But I just couldn't tackle because I knew that just that hesitancy of like, fuck, I don't want to dislocate my shoulder for the however many at the time, because my shoulder got that bad that it would dislocate in my sleep. So just sleeping, roll over, fuck, like.
No wonder you not wanting to make a tackle.
Yeah. So left side, sweet, run at me all day, I'll stand and deliver. And it was, that was because I started, I think the first game of men's I played was 16. I played it was like a 10s tournament for rugby. But I went from under 16s to playing to men's, and same sort of thing when you go, oh yeah, 16s were pretty good, and then you play men's and they don't give a fuck. Especially if you're like, because I was always a little bit taller, so I didn't look like I was that young. But man, I remember getting palmed in the chest, and I got a cork in my chest. I got hit that hard.
That's surprised me.
Like smack, and I was like, oh fuck, like what happened? How can you do that to someone? Because it's just a different ball game. And then so the year after, then I played under 20s, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I got quite big at that point, like, because I was like, oh, if I'm going to play in under 20s and I'm 17, no one gives a fuck if I'm 17 or not. So I'm going to do everything that I can. So I used to train so much, like I would always do extras. I'd always be down doing the boat ramp, I'd be training every single day, like doing everything that I could to make sure that, okay, well, I know I don't have the talent, but I do have the work ethic. So, and it's physical, just fucking do more work. Easy. Like for me, that's always been easy. Like more training, sweet, that's good. So I just know that when that could have been a thing for you of, okay, well, you really have the talent to make it, and you proved that, bar the injuries. I think if you didn't have the injuries that you had, who knows what way it would have been. But from a talent standpoint, and then a work ethic standpoint, you did everything that you could do. Yeah. There wasn't anything that you didn't do. And so that's why I was like, oh, cool, this has got to be a thing. But that's also, if you remember, then at the same time, I started to realize, because I always found the physical stuff a lot easier than mental stuff in terms of school and academics. But around then, I started reading as well. And remember, we used to do the book a week as well. Yeah. And that was a big thing as well, because I knew that, okay, well, if I couldn't do the physical thing, I need to have something else. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just going to read more in my job. And that's why I have pretty good knowledge about what I do, because I spent so much time reading at home. But then I knew that same thing, well, if this has this effect on me now, what could I do with a 17-year-old, which you've already got the training down pat, which is the hard part. And then if you read something that's going to change the way that you think about something, what's that going to do for you as well too? So that's why I encourage you to read as much as you did. And
yeah, as you said, we would read a book a week, and that's not exaggerating at all.
Yeah.
And I hadn't read a book up until that point where you were like, read. And I was like, okay, and then I think I probably was like, fuck that, like, well, I want to read, I'll play sport. And then you're like, no, read like self-improvement books.
Well, that was the thing, because when you start to realize that as well, that you can, all the information's out there. It's the same with training, like for the most part, like just turn up and do it. You have good coaching, which at the time I was doing the best that I could from a coaching standpoint. I'm significantly better now because it's 10 years ago. But, the rule of 10,000 hours, I would consider myself very much an expert in it. But the same thing is like, well, if I'm just starting to realize this stuff now, particularly around the same time I realized that I was dyslexic as well too, which is why then I didn't really like reading at school and what you're reading at school. Obviously, they can't tailor it to you. But then you realize there's so many books that you can read and actually just get better at whatever you want. What difference could that make? Because I know that it can make a difference to me. So then for someone like yourself. So that, I guess that's a big reason. And now I do it with people from a body composition standpoint. Two things. I wanted to play sport the best I could, and I was always the fat kid at school. So, but part of that was beneficial to me, but because I say fat, I just wasn't the kid that was lean. I was bigger than everybody, which meant I was stronger than everybody, which meant playing footy was good because I could run into people and tackle people. But just from a confidence standpoint, everybody will particularly as teenagers, you get the kids that are lean, they got abs, cool, the girls admire those guys, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then if you're not like that, then you're not going to be confident. So now it's more a confidence standpoint of, again, same thing. What could, if I had the knowledge that I have now, starting again, where could I get to? Instead of it taking, 10 years to get to where I'm at, could I do that in a year? And then what's the potential for the next 9 years? Or something along the lines of that. So getting people leaner, getting people to take their not only physique, but physique and body composition plays a massive role into it, to the point where they never thought would be possible. So I was showing you my transformation photo before. As a kid at 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I literally never thought I'd look like what I look like now. So to be able to get, I've gotten leaner before, but from to be able to do that same sort of transformation in a shorter period of time is the thing that I want to be able to do. And that's why I get super passionate about it, because it's just don't make making mistakes is part of it. But if you can help someone get there faster, then why not? So
make a job out of it.
Well, that's the thing. And I am, there is things with the job that are harder than, like I was talking before. I work for myself, so I have to generate my own income, and then obviously with a PT, it is a bit of a luxury. So then the housing crisis, blah blah blah, whatever it is, that's fine. Again, it's one of those things that you will get drop offs, and it's cool. I can work harder. I can do all these things on my business, and I can get better at my education. I can get better at the content side of it, which is the thing for me now, that I have a good bit of knowledge, but I got to tell people about it, and I got to showcase it, and then that will help me go down that avenue. So I haven't been reading as much now, but I've been putting a lot more effort into building the business, doing more content, getting better at this, learning this skill. I never used to be able to set the studio up 3 months ago. Yeah. So that is a skill. I know how to use these mics. I know how to use, do the editing, which is same sort of concept. So I think I said at one point I need to remind myself of 3 months ago I couldn't do what I'm doing now. Yeah. And that is the process, yeah. But yeah, that's a long-winded reason why. Because I know that I get frustrated sometimes with clients when they don't do the things, because I only ever want to help people do what they want to do. And nothing I ever told you, while it might not have been absolutely perfectly right all the time, I don't think I was super far off with a lot of the things that I told you, but it was only so you could do the best that you could do. So that's kind of why. And
I could feel that as a client and as a friend of yours, when I remember with injury, and I was doing bicep work with my left arm, and you saying that just reminded me of this, and you wanted me to do more tricep work so I could work on that extension and build up that tricep. And I remember that I was doing I'd go and just do some bicep exercises, and I would lack off on the tricep. And I remember, and as you spoke about being frustrated, I remember you being frustrated with me, and I knew it didn't come from a point that I wasn't just I was just doing whatever I wanted, and it was a point where you wanted to help. And
yeah.
I think as a coach, you're so passionate about helping people, and I felt that.
Yeah.
At the time, and I never took it the wrong way. It was you were Isaac, what the fuck? Come on, mate. I've already told you, and
yeah.
It wasn't from a point of and we had that relationship where we could speak that. Obviously you don't speak like that to everyone.
But the same from you to me actually as well, because it's, you had a shot at me a few times when I didn't post the podcast. You're where the fuck's the podcast at?
Yeah.
And I was I said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
You when I said it, because I think I said I'm going to do it weekly on the first video.
Yeah. I was waiting the next week.
Yeah. And then you messaged me, and I was oh, fuck. And then I started to go, I don't think I can do it weekly. And then when I got into the role of it, I was doing it fortnightly, because I didn't think that it was going to, not that it's the most amazing thing, but now I've got, nearly 20 of them. So I didn't think that I would get as many done frequently. But it's the same thing. I was just okay, well, I'm going to have a crack at doing it. So yeah, it's a lot of it's that accountability of someone just going what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing that? Particularly when knowing that the question is not to be offensive, it's to help as well, which, do your fucking tricep work.
I still need digital word apparently. That's why I wear oversized stuff. So no.
But that's I wear oversized everything. But actually, this is a medium. Now I lost 10
I'm
kilos.
still waiting for my ultimate strength and conditioning
mate,
merch.
You've got fucking heaps of it. You probably got more of it than anybody.
I don't know about that. Not that new. I haven't got that shirt.
Go to the store then, mate. Support a mate up.
Do you feel like your purpose is being met in this job with what you do now?
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. I guess it's something that I'm working towards. Yes and no. Oh, sorry, not no, but the thing that I want to do the most is to really help people that really, really want to train, really get in shape. I have a lot of knowledge, and I say that it sounds somewhat arrogant, but you know, like when I moved to Sydney, I found it super weird, and I didn't think that. I guess I'm somewhat modest. I didn't think that I knew as much as I did. The reason why I moved down here was because we were talking about before. I didn't want to be the big fish in a little pond. I wanted to be the little fish in a big pond. So I moved down to Sydney, and I was like, cool. If I want to be a better at personal training, I have to go where there's a lot of personal trainers. All those personal trainers are going to be better than me because they work in Sydney. And then within my first 3 months of working as a PT at Fitness Playground, I had 4 PTs as my clients. And not because they were not good PTs, but I just had more knowledge because I spent, and this is one reason why I'm appreciative of how I started, because I spent more time doing more education than most people would, because what else are we going to do in Narromine after that point? Go to the pub and drink, you know. And so when I started to, I'd spend a lot of time at home and reading and doing courses. And when I come to Sydney, I was surprised that a lot of the people around me as personal trainers only had like one certification just to get into PT, and they hadn't done a whole lot of other education. I was like, I don't understand. Like, how do you not have all these other qualifications that I have? Because you're all better than me. That's what I thought. And then I had quite a few of them then ask me to be their trainer. And then I started to realize, okay, well, maybe my approach to it, while I'm not the only person that's ever had that approach, I was like, okay, maybe it's a little bit different for me and my approach to it. And then as I've worked here, I've worked with, I don't know, it's probably close to nearly 40 trainers now as clients, as a PT. So yes, but then I really, really like helping people, but I really, really like helping people that will want to change and are really keen and excited about training. So, because then if it's just a client I don't mean this in a bad way, but this doesn't need me as the trainer, that they could have anybody that doesn't have my knowledge. It's not as fulfilling potentially as if I'm training someone who is really keen to, cool, I want to get as big a back squat as I can. I want to play professional rugby league. Cool. I'm going to get excited about that. If it's the people that struggle to come to the gym and they come to the gym once or twice a week and they're just not progressing. They're progressing in their own way, but I'm not the trainer for them, because then I can't do, what I am best at. And that's why I like working with PTs as clients, because then they're at a point where they can train at a certain level and I can actually really, really help them, as opposed to it just being, someone doing a 10 kilo goblet squat. I don't particularly want to work with someone who wants to do a 10 kilo goblet squat. I want to work with one of my clients overhead pressed 110 kilos for 2 the other night. That's crazy. Shoulder pressed, standing, 110 kilos for 2. It's mad. No one in the gym was squatting that much that night.
Yeah. That's some big boy weights.
Yeah, retardedly big.
I think that with you as well, like, I just always have viewed you as like the full package in like a trainer as such. I know, and I have over the years have fired so many different questions at you, and it was like, I knew that if you didn't know that you would find out.
Yeah,
I would ask anything nutrition wise, well-being wise, whether it was something to do with weights, and you were fine to say, I don't know that, but I know that within that next hour, you have all the information to me broken down into the pieces that I knew, and you were just like my, I guess, Google for still, and I still do it. I still fire you questions now and be like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, you are so knowledgeable that generally you do have the answer, but if you don't, like, you'll find out the answer. And I think, like, hearing you talk about that just then, it reminds me of, I guess, like, you want to just help as much as you can, and you want people that want to learn. So, and I see that when I ask you something, it's like, well, you know, you want to find out the answers to this. I'll help you get them. Like,
That's the thing, man, as well. And it's one of those things because I think in there's a couple things with it within the industry or within health and fitness and training. You have people that don't they want the magic answer. And the magic answer is relatively simple, but it's not magic. It's you need to show up at the gym probably 4 to 6 times a week, 4 to 5 times a week, train for hour, 40 minutes, whatever it might be. Train hard. Cool. I can tell you exactly how to do that. I can give you exactly what you need to know to be able to do that. And then you need to be consistent with your diet, and then you probably need to get some general activity outside of that as well to walk around 10,000 steps. Like it's not that hard. It's not that complex. But in those things, there's a lot of little ins and outs. And I think the training, nutrition is super, super complex as well too. But after a point, it doesn't change a whole lot. It's the training, the ins and outs of it. We can give you the basics, but then it's particularly as someone gets better. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, a client, that as people get a little bit better, then they start to get to a point where it's like, oh, cool, I've got some progress, then I know how to do it. So some people have they want the magic bullet. What is the secret? There it is. That's the secret. I just told you. It's nothing new. Yeah, train 4 or 5 times a week, eat decently, and then you move around. Yeah, that is the secret. I don't want that. What's the secret? That's literally it. I'm not keeping anything from you. Yeah. And I get frustrated when people are like almost like, there must be something else. Nope. That's it. I had a client. I have my transformation put up the other day. So 12 kilos. I would have lost, I don't know, nearly 10% body fat than that. Got down to 11% body fat, which is pretty lean on a DEXA scan. My client's like, I don't know how you did it. I was like, I literally wrote it all in that Instagram post. That's everything that I did.
Give you step by step how to do it.
Yeah, and so there's that where people think, it must be something else. But then also there's the other side of it as well. And these are the clients that are probably the work with me the best are the ones that they're at the point where they've got a little bit of results, but they can't get any more results, because the better you get, the more help you need to get better. That's why you trained when you were at your absolute best with a bunch of professionals. And, technically you could say, well, okay, everybody in the NRL doesn't need a coach because they're already the best players that they can be, but they all still need a coach. Yeah, because they can still get better and someone else can see it, and those coaches know exactly what they need to do to get better. Because while the coaches might not have the physical attributes to be better than them now, they're still better from a mental perspective of there's probably not many players in the competition that are going to teach Ivan Cleary stuff about coaching, yeah? But Ivan Cleary can teach a lot of people about how to play football. He's the best coach in the competition for the last 3 years, that the competition says, yeah? And so it's the same thing with training as well. Like, you get better and then it gets significantly harder. And then this is where, from my perspective, where I get excited as well too. And it's the same thing with the injury is, okay, what's harder now? What do we got to do? How can we get you to this goal when you're at this point? We could probably do all these things in that time, and we can progress you from this to this to this to this to this. I was having a conversation with a client on squatting this morning. And she's got really, really long legs and a short torso, and she's really good at RDLing or doing deadlifts. But her squat's kind of lagging a little bit. But she's also got so much progression in this last 4 or 5 months, like to the point where she was constantly in back pain. And now she's at a point where she doesn't have any back pain, but she's frustrated with that she hasn't progressed, when realistically she went from a 40 kilo RDL in December to now for 10, 12 reps to now 90 for 10 reps. So she's put 50 kilos on an RDL and she has zero pain. But she's a little bit frustrated. She's like, it should be a bit more progression. Or the same thing with the squat. She went from a goblet squat with 8 kilos to now 50 for 50 kilos, like full depth squat. And she's like, I should be a little bit more. And I was like, well, probably not, because look at how much you've
Yeah,
progressed.
you've-
But also, if you want to progress it even more, here's the things that we can do. We could probably add this in, we can add this in, all these sorts of things, and start to paint a picture of where someone can actually get to, which is the same as when you hurt your elbow. Okay, cool. That's out. These are all the things. That's how my mind thinks of it. And yeah, if there's a certain level of, I had it last week, I taught there's a certain level of like a point of reference that people almost have to have of a certain amount of training intensity and experience for me to be able to help people a good bit more. So I had the experience last week where I was running some education for some of the personal trainers at the gym. So the new people, so they're all qualified PTs, but they've gone through an induction process, and it lasts about 3 months, and they have practical developments in that time. So I stand in and teach them sometimes, and it's really, really good because they've all got 30 clients. They're doing 45, 50 sessions a week. So they've got a point of reference, or they are training people. And then I go in and teach them, and I've done, I've probably on average nearly 40 sessions a week for the last 10 years. And I've had, I don't know, it's probably closing on like 100 clients now. So I've had a lot of experience, but I can also talk to them on their point of reference of like, cool, you're training clients. I've done it at this level. I can help you get X, Y, and Z. You can refer to things. Then on Saturday, I was teaching people that are training to become personal trainers. They have one client at the moment, and they're not PTs. And I struggled with that as I taught, I did a pretty good job, but I struggled with that because they don't have the point of reference of how to link things together because they don't know anything. So like to answer the question along-winded way, I like people who are from a beginner if you're really interested in it, but also people that are already training 4 or 5 times a week and really want to get even better as well, because getting from that point of, just kind of being okay at something to getting really good at something is so much harder than just getting from being shit at it to a little bit better at it as well too. Because, how hard did you train when you got to Sydney? Even harder than you probably ever trained before. But you had to get to that point to be able to train harder than that. And I guess that's to the point of, that was kind of where I wanted to try to get you to, is how we were talking about so many people we only know from Narromine because we grew up there, but you see a lot of people come down, they wouldn't train, and then they get to Sydney, and because they're not at anywhere near that level, then that training is so much above and beyond.
The body's just not used to that.
And then they go back, they don't have that point of reference of, I'm already there, okay, cool, now we step it up. And
now the training actually starts, they just don't have the resilience to like keep going, and little setbacks, they just can't face that adversity, and then it's like, I'll just go back to, as we spoke about before, go back to the comfort zone.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and you see it with clients as well, because I get that's a bit of a frustration of mine with clients, is that you get them to move forward a little bit, and then it gets to that little bit uncomfortable, it's too far beyond, and they're just not super motivated, which is completely fine, but then they'll just drop back to where they were before. Whereas I want to help people that are already serious and they're already training get even better in a shorter period of time than they probably could have, and just continue to progress.
Could you do like seminars for, is that something like you want to go to, like seminars for like people that are already personal trainers to go to that next level in their training, or is it you more so want to focus on, I guess, elite athletes as such, or people that really want to go to the next level in their lifting sport?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, I like it's probably more from a body composition standpoint now, and just like because I guess it's as I've progressed along in my career and grown up, is that you realize, okay, well, the sport thing is super cool. I think sport's amazing, but then like yourself, it gets to a point where, okay, it's just not going to continue to happen like that. And then it's like, okay, what else are we training for? We want to train for health, because for health is really, really important. Yeah. For longevity, for building muscle mass. So you can, for you, like you can pick Harry up and you can run around with him and you can play with him, for however long, you can play footy with him when you're 18 if you keep training, whatever it might be. Because your old man still trains, yeah?
Yeah, he still trains, yeah.
And that's cool. There's no reason why he can't, yeah? And he can run around and do all those sorts of things, and he'll probably be able to run around with Harry.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's definitely a thing. It's just being capable. So getting people to be able to do that, because like I was saying to you with like my goals earlier, were I want to do a weightlifting comp, I want to do a powerlifting comp, I probably want to do a photo shoot, and then I want to do a mountain bike race. I want to be able to do all those things and not be limited by it. So it's important for me with clients to be able to allow them to do that, and you can do that with training better. Then also from a confidence standpoint, confidence in your body's ability, but confidence from a standpoint with body composition. That was always a thing for me. I was never really lean as a kid, and that has been a good thing because now it means I do what I do, and it was just something that I struggled with, and I read more on nutrition than most people would. I read more on training than most people would because I wanted to figure out how to get out of it. And then now I'm at a point where I have that transformation photo of like, oh, fuck me. Like,
I've got abs.
yeah. And it's like, that's cool. So I find that's probably where I find the most joy in helping people, because in that process, I think you could go down that road and it only be about, burning energy and being tired and losing weight. But I don't want people, there's a point where it gets to that, but I want people to be able to be like that or close to that, but have the muscle mass to be able to do those things and have the ability to do those things. But then also just seeing the difference between someone coming into the gym. I had a guy recently who did a bit of a transformation, and he trained a little bit before, but then he said that he didn't really like training and he wanted to build a bit of muscle mass and get leaner. It's a standard thing. But he said the thing that stands out to me, he said he didn't like training. So he's like, I'll do 3 days a week. And then he ended up, now he trains like 5-6 days a week, and he lost over 11 kilos, but he would have put on a couple kilos of muscle mass in the time, because I'll show you his photo. And just seeing
Does he
that
love training now?
he comes in the gym all the time because he saw results. And I guess that's the thing. It's like when you start to see that change in someone and what they look like and their confidence. He's 94, 95 kilos here, and then he's at 84.
Big change.
Yeah. And just like in the face, you're like, oh, fuck yeah, he's confident now. Yeah. And he posted a photo the other day of he went on a holiday and just wandering around with his shirt off, and like, fuck, looks sick. That's great. Yeah. So like that, I know he wouldn't have he might have wandered around with his shirt off there, but he's not going to feel the same, feel as confident there. And just those things as well, like that's a big reason. That's what I want to do and direct my business towards now, is being able to help people do that, because I know that I can, and I can get that be 6 months of transformation.
That's what you can do, in that longer.
That's it, and there's just always so much to progress with, and because otherwise, I think people just get to the point where it's like, oh, cool, I can't. It's impossible for me to do it. I'm sure you probably thought it was impossible at a point to, even though you were determined, but like to get to where you got to with your footy. There's probably a lot of people that are similar to you. Yeah. They're like, I want to do it. I don't know if I can do it. It's impossible. Yeah.
I think I might be a little bit different in that sense. I think for me, it was like I was just always going to play. And I think that just come from as a kid, just being so confident and determined that I would play at a really high level. And I just thought that I'd play first grade, and that was like just what my life was meant to be. But yeah, I do know like a lot of people that are in that state, like, just don't ever think that they'll reach a certain, goal or a certain milestone, and they just work hard enough that it ends up like coming true. Where I was a little bit different in the fact that I just thought I could do everything, and I still like semi-believe that. Like, my mindset's so weird. Like, I still think now I could pick up a tennis racket and go play and like beat anyone. Like, if I went and played someone that's been playing for 10 years, like I would genuinely in my head, and I would never, but genuinely in my head believe that I could beat, a person that might have been playing for 20 years. Yeah. And that's just always been, I guess, my mindset, and that's just who I am. And like,
but then as you there's a point where you realize, okay, well, I can't, but I'm going to work hard to do that.
Yeah. There's one point in my brain's like, I guess I can't, but then the other point is like, no, why can't I? Like, yeah. And it's, if I don't, say if I was to go versus that person, I didn't beat them, I'm like, that's where I get to that point where it's like, okay, what can I do to, do that? And
if that's meaningful enough. And also for some people, it's just not, and that's completely fine. But it's just that I think there's so much potential for people when they have when they're willing to do it, and I know that there's a lot of change to get to being able to do it as well too. Everybody's got to be at the right point. But, you know, I want to attract clients that really, really want to take it to that level, because I know it makes such a big difference to someone's life as well. That's why I do what I do and I know the people that don't get that result, I still help them change their life to a certain extent. But I want to really be able to get people in mad shape and, you know, and also be able to do other things like back squat 150 kilos, be able to bench press, 100 kilos, be able to do 20 chin-ups, and then also walk around super, super confident, because I think they can be done together as well, because that's what I train for. Like, I like to do a lot of different stuff. And that's why I don't just do bodybuilding, because the body composition is a thing for me. So then one would go, okay, well, just do bodybuilding. That's all you need to do. Just walk on a treadmill and just do bodybuilding. But I'm like, it's boring. I don't want to do that. Like, I think you can do a lot of the things. There is going to be a trade-off at a certain point, but, you could still manage your nutrition and train all these things and then end up looking like you want to look and be able to have that feeling. Because I guess it's blending those things together. Like, the reason why I like the training for sport is the performance element of, like, actually seeing that you're getting better by a measurement of, like, you have your fitness test and you get better on your fitness test, or you see the weight on the bar go up, or whatever it might be. It's just cool to see progression like that. But then also, it's cool, like, body composition and aesthetics is a part of it. Like, having big quads is sick.
Yeah. You were born with them. You would know.
Yeah, that's it. That's cool. And, progressing with things like that, I think is just really, really cool, because it makes the whole thing purposeful and meaningful, because at the end of the day, none of it matters as well too. It doesn't matter if
I'm at a point now where I train I train at 4:30 or 4 to 4:30 in the morning, just meant to start my day the right way, and just like know that, I love the fact that I'm getting up at that time and training, because everyone else is asleep, but majority you're not. Majority of people are still asleep, and it's just like that little win. And while I love like progressing on, my lifts and things like that, I'm at the point now where I do it to start my day the right way, and it's just like, I guess it's a little win on, I guess, other people, and it's just, for me, it's like, okay, I'm doing, something that people aren't, and it sets up my day to go into my work day and deal with whatever I have to.
Yeah.
In that element. So.
And that's a confidence thing too, yeah. Like, it gives you that, whatever that might be, whether it's confidence or not, it gives you that feeling, or whatever that feeling is of, I guess, it's being in control of it, doing something that's challenging, and starting the day the right way. Because from a technical standpoint, it's the worst thing that you can do to train at that time, from a physiological standpoint. But you also know, as you're a dad now and you've got a full-time job, that's the time that you have to get it done. Yeah. And if you weren't to do that, what would that be? What would that happen? What would happen to your mental health if you didn't do that?
I noticed, so my beautiful son, who I love and adore, is the worst sleeper ever. I got a text from Elise last night. I was coming from training. She was like, "Harry is the worst sleeper of all time." I'm like, yeah. So in the year, he's had 2 full nights sleep, but I love the fact, it's crazy.
That's why I won't ever do it.
It's fucking crazy, I tell you that. Like, sleep deprivation is next level. But I love the fact that I'm so sleep deprived, but it's just like that little win to be like, I'm going to get up. I don't give a fuck if I've only had, 3-4 hours sleep. And I was so big on that aspect before, like, make sure you get a full night's sleep. But now I'm at the point, it's like, I want to teach my son that you can just get shit done no matter what. Like, I'll go at 4:30 so I can be home for when he wakes up at 5:30, and like know that I've done that hour before. And while he has no fucking idea, he just thinks that I'm, just there. One day he'll realize that, you put in all this like work, and, good things come from it. And back to what I was saying, if I don't work out in a day, I notice it. And even my conversations at work, I can tell that I haven't, trained. I'm just not in the right mental space. I went to the gym before I came to see you, because I know that if I train in the morning, like, I'm so much like clearer mentally and can just have those, conversations freely. Little did I know I would come here and then we'd end up squatting.
Mate, it's the ultimate squat club, not ultimate strength conditioning.
Might as well be.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. It's like there's so many aspects of it that allow you it's that cliche that it's the catalyst to everything, to a lot of things, but you know, that just, it changes your mentality. And it doesn't mean that every single day, like there's many days where I train and I'm like, it's not like it's a light bulb moment every single day you did it, but you know, if you didn't get that training session in, that you'll feel shit.
Training without purpose.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the longevity thing of it as well too. For you now, you've trained for 10 years. You can't not train because that's part of your personality. Yeah, although your identity and your personality has moved on from Isaac the football player, but you know that the like the concepts that you've learned in that process of going down that endeavor will serve you for life. Yeah,
values of like hard work.
Yeah,
like what they get you.
Yeah, that's it. And that's also like with the training as well too. You know, I might not have been exactly right with everything, but you know, I tried to teach you early on of this is why you need to do full range of motion. This is why you don't want shit form. This is why you should probably prioritize exercises like this. Still do these ones, but do these ones as well too. Maybe spend a little bit more time on these things because they're going to benefit you more down the line doing this. So, you know, how often is it? I think it's just, I don't want other people to be limited by like their physicality. Because like my old man, he was a builder and now he doesn't have very good knees. And I know that as part of my job, I can fix these things and that not be an issue. But also if you don't ever have the bad knees because you squat full depth all the time, you know, you're always going to be able to do that. Can you imagine that there's going to be a time where you walk into the gym and you're like, I'm just going to do a half squat?
No. Never.
You're not going to.
Actually, though, you did send me a video of you doing a half squat.
Yeah, because
if I had social media, I would post that for everyone to see because we don't see that from Matt Walsh very often.
No, well, I was just trying to get to what everybody else feels like with the squat. No, well, I was doing the half squat because squat to pins with a pause because that's my sticking point on a squat. So I was working on the weakest link, as we've been talking about, because I know that if I don't work on that, then it probably won't get any better.
True.
You know? So just me attacking problems, mate, that's what I was doing.
Excuses, that's all I'm hearing.
So that when I try to squat 170 kilos again, I don't get pinned coming out
when
the bottom.
When are you going to hit 200? I had a bet with you last year that I was going to hit 200 by the end of December last year.
You haven't. 200's know what it takes to get to close to 170. I think if I could get within range, if I could get to 170, then. But that's the thing as well. It's harder to get better when you get to your upper limit as well. I don't know. I'd like to get 170 and then obviously go up from there if I could. But I don't know. I have to give it a crack.
Should we have a race?
Yeah, sure. We've been racing since 15?
If it's on air, like, and it's recorded, then it's a bet.
So
not that I'm a gambling man, but if I
actually, speaking of, you haven't seen it. You haven't seen the guy on Instagram that plays blackjack every day, and he does. Oh mate, he's so good. If there was one thing that you'll get back on Instagram for, it'd be a guy called.
I think you. So now that I don't have socials, you can send me stuff, and I can like watch it through a browser. I still have people that will send me like a TikTok or an Instagram.
And you can watch it.
It's just like you don't have to log in. You can watch it once.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Send it to me.
It's a guy called Tim Naki. Is this Kiwi fella, and he started out. His thing was, I'm going to go to the blackjack table and I'm going to bet 10 cents for every Instagram follower I have. And so he started out with 15,000 people or something like that. Or I think it was less than 10,000. So it was a $900 bet. And then got up to 15,000. He's up to 700,000. So it's a $72,000 bet.
Every day?
One hand.
Every day?
Yes.
How much fucking money does the guy have?
Well, because he only started out with $900, so that's a big bet. But on one hand, if you win that, then you're probably taking home close to $2,000, yeah?
Okay.
And then the next day, and he won a few hands, and he's over $500,000 in profit. And you are saying that you're not a gambling man. You are a gambling man.
I do like racehorses, yeah.
You could bet 10 cents for every Instagram follow you have, which would be
Zero.
safe, yeah. So,
I would have.
You got a few on there. You're over 1,000, yeah. But he got up to. It's just so funny because he's just like, he's a guy betting 70 grand on one hand.
Can you send me that and I'll look on Elise's? Well, do you have Elise on Instagram?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you send it to her and then I'll
have a
it
look
through
at it
her.
later. It's so funny. Yeah.
Life without social media is good though. We spoke about it before.
Well, you won't be able to. Would Spotify class as social media?
No.
Podcasting? It's media.
It's not social media.
Fair. You're not going to be able to share it, mate. It'll be worthless. Oh, it's just been a good
pretty face.
Yeah, it's been a good conversation though.
It's not even on record.
I think about that sometimes. You know what I might do is get a mirror to put on the other side, and which is actually a really good shout because then I plan to do it with the phone as long as I can.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any social media really on my phone. It's just email, my programs, some different, like I have maybe some editing software on there, editing apps, but I delete them when I need to just to film it, and it's just all podcast stuff on there. So I have Spotify, and then I have the podcast app. But I planned, the big thing for me, like I said at the start, was just no barrier to entry. So I don't want to have an issue with getting it done. And if I can do it on my phone, why not do it on my phone? If I have someone else's camera or whatever it might be, Benny's got a camera here. He's like, we can use the camera. But I was like, then I need you to always be around to have the camera. And they say, I can charge my phone every single day. I can charge these mics every single day. Although they're quite expensive. The full influence.
That's the one that,
yeah. But it all goes through this. So they just plug that in there and then that goes through to the phone, which is quite cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fancy.
It is pretty cool. But yeah, well, this is the same, like I said a few times, this is my attempt to make it, to go in all in on this. I think the most that I've done 5 podcasts in 1 week, which is like nearly 10 hours in the week of talking to people.
It's crazy. Do you find you get exhausted after it? Or is it because it's conversations that you are interested in your...
Well, that's the thing. That's why I want to do it is it excites me talking about the stuff. And when you get someone else talking about something else that they're excited in, whatever that may be for the most part, is then exciting and the conversation just bounces and it doesn't feel like it's effort. So there's a bit of effort in it, but it's not... I've had a couple that were more effort, but it was probably more early on because I had my mentor, Matt Duncan, on. And it was just interesting being on the other side of it. He usually asks me questions and mentors me and coaches me, whereas I was not coaching him or mentoring him, but I was asking him questions and listening. And so that was interesting.
How do you find so as I spoke to you about before, with my job, I do a lot of that, like asking questions, and we've got programs running. How do you find sitting and listening without interrupting?
It's usually pretty easy because it's easier to not say stuff. It's because you can't fuck up not saying stuff.
True. But for some, that's like I remember when we've done some of those programs, parents would be like, it's so hard, like not to say anything because they just want to like jump in. And one thing I learned like through doing these things, and it was really cool for me today just to speak about my story because it's been a long time. I don't think I've ever sat down for as long as I have and just spoke about, my story and how impactful that is on an individual just to be able to sit and not, although we've gone on a million tangents, but for a period of time there we spoke about, my story and how often we get to do that and reflect on, how far I've come. And even leading into this podcast, I've been constantly thinking about my story as such. So yeah, just to be able to speak, I guess, and not just get thrown off or go onto a different tangent is so impactful for people just to be able to speak freely.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the vibe, man, is everybody. So it was cool to listen to you talk about it and a couple of things that you said that have led you to do what you're doing now with your job and having the impact that you're having. A lot of people didn't know and my story comes out more on as someone will ask a question or I'll tell a story. It's never, unless someone interviews me, which I actually have one that's probably going to come up as I'm going to be on someone else's podcast. But your story is the reason why you're doing the things that you're doing. So there's always going to be something in that dictates, there's always going to be something in that dictates why you do what you do or gets you to that point, because that's how life goes. Yeah. Something will lead to something, will lead to something, will lead to something. And whether that is, it has a lot of meaning behind it to an extent of the job that you do is the most meaningful thing that you do. Or it's just like, I've just got a job so I can support my family. And so there has meaning behind that as well too. I work this 9 to 5 so I can then pay for my kids so they can do whatever it might be, so we can have a holiday, we can do weekends. If that's the purpose, that's sick, dude. Go all in on that. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. For me, I have the reasons why I do what I do, and that's a lot of why I do it, is because, I think it's cool that I'll be able to do the job that I do every single day is one of my main hobbies and has been a massive thing across my life. And it's the reason why I'm sitting here having this conversation. There's a big reason why you got to where you got to from the help that I, gave you.
I'd be sitting in a pub at Narromine saying I could have been the next big thing.
That's the thing, which is also completely fine. But if you did that and you actually had a proper crack, fair play. That's sweet.
Is that the green light for me to move back to Narromine? And
you've talked about it a few times.
I would like to.
Really? It's a long way away from everywhere, mate.
But like, I speak to people in the city and I'm like, they're like, what is there to do in Narromine? And I'm like, what do you do in Sydney that's different?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just more from, I don't know, it's the pace of life is just, I think there's just a bit more going on down here. I guess it's more just the people that I'm around, but you just see people moving around doing a little bit more, which is, I felt real stale at home with that. Because there was me and one other PT.
Yeah. I think
that's where
I needed to move away, but I think now I would be happy to move back and go to that slower pace. But like you needed that change of pace and be around like-minded people.
Yeah.
And I think that's served its purpose for like a little bit of time.
Yeah. But also, like, I don't want to live in Sydney forever,
No.
which is what I was talking about. We're looking to move as well, so I can do the things that I want to do. But just I like the convenience of it, but also I do love the bush as well. We're going out to Mudgee this weekend, which I'm super stoked for.
Taking the bike?
Yeah. Taking the bikes, and then there's some good trails in Mudgee as well too.
Speaking of the country, Elise always tells a story, because when she first went out to Narromine, she thought it was going to be like red dirt and horses and all that sort of jazz, like just typical city
emus
girl.
walking down the street.
Yeah, well, which actually does. Yeah, I'm glad you
I remember
that.
And kangaroos. I remember doing PT in the park down there, and they would just every now and then there'd be just a kangaroo bounce by.
Just what happens.
Yeah.
So she was like, you speak about the convenience of things, and we were going to go to Mr. Barista Cafe because soul food was shut on a Sunday, as it does. And then we got to the door and it was like, due to unforeseen circumstances, we are shut today. And then I was like, oh, fuck. Like, and we love coffee. And she's like, hey, we'll just go to another one. I'm like, oh, that's the only one. Like,
yeah,
she's
we
like,
can't.
what do you mean? Like, and I was like, nah, like, that's the only cafe. And I was like, we can go to Dubbo. I was like, it's 25 minutes away. She's like, what? Like,
I think it was things like that. Like I enjoyed going to Dubbo every now and then. Like for that, you go out for coffee. I think it's those things that I really like, is the going to cafes, and I don't go to restaurants a lot, but just being able to go to cafes and whatever it might be is those conveniences. But yeah, I'll never live in Narromine again. I don't think. No, I don't think I won't.
I'll never say never. I don't think I will, but I could. I would have, if I didn't meet Elise, I would have moved back there in COVID times.
Yeah, fair. It would have been nice then.
Oh,
That
would have
would
been the best.
be ideal, because
Yeah.
literally nothing changes. It's just normal.
Yeah. Just the pub's not open.
Yeah, yeah. But that's not a big thing for me, although I drink quite a bit more now.
Yeah, have you listened to
Human.
I've sent it to you, haven't
Yeah.
I? You don't want to listen to it? No, that was my dad said I was like, oh, I've got this podcast about alcohol. He's like, I'm not listening to that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, but it's like really good. He's like, no, I enjoy beer too much. But that's a super interesting listen.
Yeah, no, I know that I haven't listened to it, but I've been exposed to enough information and know that it literally makes every single thing in your body worse. Nothing better.
Maximum it was like 2 drinks per week.
Yeah.
And like that's still pushing it.
Yeah. Big thing for a lot of people that don't understand, particularly males, and females as well, but males, depresses your testosterone for 3 to 4 days after. So if you want to build a bigger chest and you have a bender on Saturday night, you're not building much chest on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Maybe by the end of the week, but then you're like, oh, cool, let's go have a bender again. And
That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy that, then you see these like macho guys drinking a heap of beer and then you're literally turning yourself into more of a woman consciously.
Yeah, true. Good point.
Sick. Excellent. You're less of a man now. Mad, you sunk that beer?
Yep.
Excellent.
Although I do enjoy a nice cold beer.
That's the feminine side coming out in you, mate.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing to say, isn't it? Like,
I can't finish a beer.
really?
No, I just drink straight whiskey. Straight whiskey. Actually, we went to...
on ice?
Neat.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, nothing. Neat. Just in the glass, straight whiskey. Grow up.
No, it's pretty manly, to be fair.
Yeah.
Put hairs on your chest.
Yeah, and a rabbit on your back. Have you heard that one before?
No. Oh, a lady at the fucking deli the other day, Penrith, she was like, what did she say? Harry was teething and he was like biting his like finger, whatever. And she goes, oh, is he teething? And we're like, yeah. And she goes, what I used to do, I used to get a bit of whiskey and I'd put it straight. And at least I'm like, oh, really? Like,
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
No, don't do that. No, but whiskey is very, very good. If you've had wine before, yeah?
Yeah.
You know how there's all the different wines and different tastes. It's the same thing with whiskey. It's just that it's better. That's the reason why.
I enjoy wine as well.
Yeah.
I don't drink as much now. When was the last time you had fast food, like McDonald's or KFC?
Can't remember.
I listen to a good sugar podcast and I've been off sugar completely. No gluten. Gluten occasionally.
Should have listened to me back in 2015. Eh? What did I say?
But I enjoy like a really good burger and stuff.
Yeah, of course you do. Your guts don't.
No, I don't.
That's okay.
But that's how I know we need to wrap it up. Holy shit.
Yeah, we've been going for a while, mate. You might be the longest one so far.
That's a long time.
It's good fun, hey?
Yeah, we'll have to get back on.
Yeah,
We
for
can
sure.
Finish that conversation later.
What was I going to say? But yeah, no, you should try whiskey.
Done.
It's good. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, the sleep topic. There's a really, really good book or a really, really good author. There's a couple of different podcasts that'd be good for you to listen, particularly for Harry as well too, is Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. Very, very important. Very important to know what sleep does. And because same thing as alcohol will make every...
Matthew Walker. Apologies for being rude on my phone.
That's okay. Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep.
Cool.
If anybody out there read one book, this one will change your life. And much like with how you were talking with...
Big statement. Sorry to interrupt, but for you to say...
Yeah, it will change your life.
Yeah, keep going.
The human beings are the only species on Earth that will forego sleeping the amount that is necessary for survival, for you to thrive. So we can survive off less sleep, we're not thriving. So from a brain function standpoint, you will go through periods where you have less sleep, obviously with a newborn baby, but if you're actively choosing to sleep less, then you're aging your brain faster. And sleep is the catalyst to everything. So even from a nutrition standpoint, if you sleep less, you're going to make worse food decisions. You're going to try and eat whatever to feel better. Your mood is going to change significantly, whatever it might be. And to the point with alcohol will makes everything in the body worse, but it'll make sleep significantly worse. And one of the big things is, so we have different stages of sleep. We have two types of sleep. We have REM sleep and non-REM sleep. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you used to think that REM sleep was the most important because that's where you dream. It is important, but you still need non-REM sleep because evolution is pretty good and it gives us these things for a reason. And in REM sleep, we have 4 different stages, 1 through 4. The thing we need both of them, and this is where the lack of sleep, they hypothesize, is the reason why people get dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Like, that's very clear of, like, if you have less sleep, that's going to happen. But the REM sleep, for instance, is where it's always the later stages of sleep. That's where we dream. That's why we always wake up from dreams in the morning, because it's later as we go in the sleep. But that's really, really important for like social and emotional connections with people. And if you have less REM sleep, you'll be more irritable. You'll have a hard time with conversations. You'll probably be more argumentative. You'll have all these things happen. And alcohol will actually just stop that from happening as well too. So you know, people who drink a lot, they end up getting more aggro later in life because they don't sleep properly for the rest of their life or for all of their life, and then they end up as a grumpy old drunk. That's the reason why. There's a lot of things in it, but one of the things that would be interesting for you with Harry will be that as we sleep is what makes as we age, sleep is what makes our brain develop, particularly at such a young age. And there's different stages in your sleep. So he's in a period where he doesn't sleep now, which is kind of normal, but brain development will be dictated on the quality of sleep that you get for the rest of your life. And then knowing that as they start to age, they'll go through periods where they don't sleep on the same schedule as an adult does. So you remember being a kid as a teenager, you would want to go to sleep later in the night and then get up later. And so that's your circadian rhythm changing. And as that changes, then you will, and then when we go through periods where it's kind of normal sleep schedule to an adult as a kid, and then we get to a teenager and the circadian rhythm changes, moves forward. And so he will become a teenager and he will not want to go to bed at the same time as you. And then you'll argue with him to go to bed, and then he won't go to bed. And then it's not because teenagers start to become more rebellious.
So interesting.
It's literally human beings have evolved for this. I don't know the exact reason, but they've evolved to have their circadian rhythm changed. And then as you start to get into adulthood, your circadian rhythm changes back to normal. So then you'll start to have more of a normal sleep schedule where you go to bed somewhere from like 9 to 10, whatever it might be. And then you'll wake up around 6 to 7 if you were to have that. But
very interesting.
Very, very interesting, because then if you start to understand that, particularly because you've got a child now, he's going to go through all of that. And his brain will be largely, his brain development is determined by his sleep schedule. If you want it to be good, which I'm sure you do, if you can understand that, then you can start to be like, oh, cool, well, this will help, this will help, this will help. And it's the same thing as like what I was saying before, like if you can then, for me, helping you with your training, if you didn't have to make the mistakes that I made at the start, then where can you get to? Whatever it might be. But very, very
noted,
beneficial. There's a podcast with Peter Attia, I'll send it to you, and Matthew Walker. And you don't need to read the book, but once you understand a little bit more about it, it's like, oh, fuck. That's really important.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now, mate. That was really, really good. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure.
Thumbnail. Oh, it's about to explode.